Chapter 1818. After all, this was the Azure Emperor world, his world. Everything was under his control. No matter how strong Giga was, without his permission, it was impossible for him to know what was going on in the Azure Emperor world. Therefore, this was his only chance, his only chance. Once he lost this chance, there would be no more chances. Brat, if you had chosen to use the token to escape right from the start and enter the next round, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. But now, you won't be able to do so. I've already sealed the entire Azure Emperor world. Even if you have the token, you won't be able to leave. So, just accept your fate. The Azure Emperor stared at Yang Hanwu as he spoke. Divine token? Ah, I'll tell you the truth. I've already completely refined the divine token. It's gone. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to obtain the divine token. Moreover, you won't be able to kill me. Don't think too highly of yourself. Yang Hanwu laughed. He didn't even put the Azure Emperor in his eyes, as though the Azure Emperor wasn't a threat to him at all. Impossible, who do you think you are? It's impossible for the divine token to be destroyed. With your strength, it's impossible for you to completely refine it. The Azure Emperor was getting anxious. If this was really the case, all his calculations would be for naught. How could he not be anxious? Everything he did was for the sake of the divine token. That was the foundation of his breakthrough. Although Giga had placed the divine token in his Azure King realm, he had no way to take the initiative to obtain it. He could only snatch it from the hands of other participants. Now that he was so close to obtaining it, if it was destroyed, it would truly be too painful to him. I don't believe it. With a roar of anger, the Azure Emperor stretched out his hand, grabbing towards Yang Hanwu. He wanted to capture Yang Hanwu. Careful. Anya Shen was extremely worried. When he saw the Azure Emperor making a move, he hurriedly warned. Yang Hanwu had already noticed it. However, how fast was Yang Hanwu's speed? Although the Azure Emperor's speed was astonishing, Yang Hanwu's speed was even faster. With a single void shuttle, he disappeared from the spot and appeared in another location. Looking at the Azure Emperor, Yang Hanwu shot out a fire arrow. This wasn't any ordinary fire arrow, it was a fire arrow condensed by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. More importantly, Yang Hanwu had infused it with the force of fortune. The force of fortune was a supreme source of energy. Coupled with the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. With the power of fire, this damage was definitely off the charts. A flaming arrow with boundless power shot towards the Azure Emperor's forehead. The Tsang Emperor was slightly taken aback when he discovered that Yang Hanwu's speed was so fast that he was able to dodge his attack. However, he still didn't put Yang Hanwu in his eyes. You're dreaming if you want to deal with me. You're fast, but kid, you've forgotten one thing. My cultivation realm is beyond your imagination. Compared to me, you're just an ant. It's easy for me to kill you, but you're just an ant trying to shake a tree. You're overestimating yourself. Even if I stand here, you won't be able to touch me. The Azure Emperor didn't care about Yang Hanwu's flaming arrow at all. With a single thought, he condensed a defensive barrier. However, something shocking happened. Yang Hanwu's flaming arrow pierced through the barrier. In an instant, the Azure Emperor's flaming arrow shattered his defensive barrier and was about to hit his face. At the moment when his defensive barrier was shattered, the Azure Emperor regained his senses. He waved his hand in an attempt to block the flaming arrow. However, the moment his hand came in contact with the flaming arrow, it started to burn. The intense pain made him widen his eyes. The damage caused by the flaming arrow was too terrifying. It could actually hurt him. Moreover, this flaming arrow contained a terrifying power that was constantly invading his body. This was the part where he truly felt fear. That power was too pure and too strong. The power of the divine token. Could this be the power of the divine token? Did he really refine the token? Thinking of this, the Azure Emperor spent a lot of effort to remove the power that invaded his body. He stared at Yang Hanwu, his eyes were filled with killing intent. In his mind, only the origin energy of the god's token could be so powerful and terrifying that it could hurt him. Moreover, if it wasn't for his powerful strength and the fact that he was in his own world, it wouldn't have been easy for him to get rid of the origin energy just now. If Yang Hongwu's strength increased a little more and reached the level of the Emperor, that attack would have been enough to injure him severely. He couldn't think of any other power that could achieve such a terrifying power other than the source of the divine token. Damn it! Bastard! You little bastard! How dare you steal my opportunity and refine my treasure? At this moment, the Azure Emperor was completely mad. He stared at Yang Hongwu with bloodshot eyes. This side of the world was in a frenzy. In an instant, the sky was filled with dark clouds and a terrifying aura was emitted. The oppressive aura enveloped a radius of 10,000 feet. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to refine you alive and take back the power that belongs to me. The Azure Emperor glared at Yang Hongwu and roared as he rushed over. His speed was so fast that it made people speechless. When Anya Shen saw this scene, his expression changed drastically. He knew that the Azure Emperor was truly enraged this time and was about to go all out. The Azure Emperor at this moment caused her to be extremely frightened. The reason why she dared to stay was because she had a trump card, and that was an Immortal True Spirit Talisman. This Immortal True Spirit Talisman was a legendary divine item. Unfortunately, it could only be used once. Once it was used, it could even block a Sovereign Realm expert's attack. Right now, although the Azure Emperor's strength was strong, it was still limited. He hadn't reached the Sovereign Realm. However, compared to a half-step sovereign like the Emperor of the 100 Wisdom Continent, he was still slightly weaker. But after all, this was the Azure Emperor world, a world ruled by the Azure Emperor. How strong was his strength? It was precisely because of this that although he didn't have the strength of a Sovereign Realm expert, in this Azure Emperor world, his strength was comparable to a Sovereign Realm expert. The Berserk aura instantly suppressed the two of them to the point where they couldn't breathe. Chapter 18-19. This talisman is too precious. You don't need it to deal with this guy. Keep it. Yang Hongwu shook his head and stopped Anya Shenv when he saw Anya Shenv wanting to use the talisman. It would be too wasteful to use it now. There was no need to use it to deal with the Tsang King. Even though it wasn't Yang Hongwu's possession, Yang Hongwu knew that Anya Shenv was really trying to protect him this time. No need. Do you have a way to deal with him? Anya Shenv asked worriedly. Even though the talisman is precious, it's worth it to use it to deal with the Tsang King. After all, the talisman is just a worldly possession. You only have one life. Yang Hongwu smiled. Don't worry, I'm confident. It's just a Tsang King, I don't put him in my eyes. Hearing that, the Tsang King sneered. He looked at Yang Hongwu. If he didn't stop Anya Shen from using the Immortal True Spirit Talisman, he would have been worried. After all, that was the legendary Immortal True Spirit Talisman, the power of immortality. Why was Zhiga so powerful when he could block it? It was because he had surpassed the Sovereign Realm and comprehended the power of immortality. The reason why he wanted to obtain the Divine Token was because he wanted to obtain the origin energy of the Divine Token so that he could use the origin energy of the Divine Token to comprehend the immortal energy. Right now, his eyes were filled with greed. Even if the Divine Token had been devoured by Yang Hongwu and was gone, he had a new idea. His current goal was to obtain the Immortal True Spirit Talisman. If he could obtain the Immortal True Spirit Talisman, he would be able to obtain it. If he could obtain the talisman, he could use it to comprehend the power of immortality. However, it wasn't easy to obtain the Immortal True Spirit Talisman. Capturing Anya Shenv? That was too difficult. After all, it would be strange if he could capture someone with the Immortal True Spirit Talisman. Since he couldn't capture Anya Shenv, there was only one chance left. He could capture Yang Hongwu and use Yang Hongwu to threaten Anya Shenv to hand over the Immortal True Spirit Talisman. After all, he could see how much Anya Shenv cared about Yang Hongwu. No matter how strong or how outstanding a woman was, once she fell in love with a man, she would do anything for him. Tsang's very well. Anya Shen at this moment, he was the kind of man to give up everything for Yang Hongwu. As long as he captured Yang Hongwu, he would have the opportunity to obtain the immortal true spirit talisman from the Dark Night Goddess. Naive. The Tsang Emperor looked at Yang Hongwu with disdain. He knew that it wouldn't be an easy task to capture Yang Hongwu, because the strength Yang Hongwu had displayed so far wasn't weak at all. Especially his life-saving trump card, the Void Traversal technique. One had to know that this was his world. However, Yang Hongwu was still able to travel freely, making it impossible for him to lock him down. This meant that he had a treasure on him, or a powerful secret technique. Besides, he had also refined a divine token. Therefore, it wouldn't be easy for him to capture Yang Hongwu. However, compared to capturing the Goddess of the Dark Night, it would be much easier. The Goddess of the Dark Night had the immortal true spirit talisman. Even though the immortal true spirit talisman couldn't be used by the immortal true spirit talisman, it wouldn't be easy for him. Even if the immortal true spirit talisman didn't work with it, it could still protect Anya Shen at a critical moment. Only if she willingly gave up the immortal true spirit talisman would he have a chance to get it. After that, Tsang Emperor's aura locked onto Yang Hongwu. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Yang Hongwu, reaching out his hand to grab him. However, Yang Hongwu's strength wasn't weak. Especially against the Tsang Emperor, Yang Hongwu already had a plan in mind. If he didn't have enough confidence, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have acted so rashly. Therefore, Yang Hongwu was already prepared the moment that Tsang Emperor appeared. "You can't catch me." Yang Hongwu laughed lightly. After which, he transformed into a shadow and vanished from his original location. In the next instant, silhouettes appeared all around the Azure Emperor. These silhouettes were all Yang Hongwu's silhouettes, making it impossible for anyone to tell which one was the real one and which one was the fake. What a mysterious illusion technique, it really surprised me. The Tsang Emperor looked at the figures of Yang Hongwu that surrounded him. He was very surprised. One must know that this was his world, but he couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. This was really amazing. In any case, he was a sovereign realm warrior. Although his strength was restricted due to special reasons and he could not display the power of a sovereign realm warrior, this was still his world. Normally speaking, casting an illusion in his world would not affect him at all. However, this was still his world. However, he couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. Although he couldn't tell which one was real, he didn't care. This was his world. So what if it was real? So what if it was fake? As long as he could suppress all these Yang Hongwu, it would be fine. And this wasn't difficult for the Tsang Emperor. As long as he activated his world energy, he could do it with his status as a heavenly sovereign. "Little guy, you're too naive if you think you can stop me with this. Don't forget, this is my world. In my world, I am invincible. No one can play tricks in front of me." As he said that, the Tsang Emperor waved his hand. The entire world seemed to be sealed. Then, the space around them started to compress. Yang Hongwu and his clone embodiment were trapped in this space and kept getting squeezed. Anya Shen was very anxious. The talisman in his hand glowed faintly. It was the immortal true spirit talisman. I said, "I don't need it." At this moment, one of Yang Hongwu's figures appeared beside Anya Shen. "Stay away. This old man doesn't dare to attack you because of the talisman in your hand. If you use it, you'll be in danger. After all, it's an immortal true spirit talisman. Although the talisman is strong, it might not be able to kill this old man in his world." Chapter 1820. "It's fine." Yang Hongwu smiled at Anya Shen, then turned to Tsang Emperor and said coldly, "Didn't you want the divine token? This is the divine ability I got from the token. What do you think? Isn't this divine ability passable?" In fact, this divine ability wasn't something that Yang Hongwu needed. However, it was different if he gave it to Tsang Emperor. Tsang Emperor was disgusted when he saw this divine ability. He thought that he had sealed Yang Hongwu, but he didn't expect that Yang Hongwu would be able to escape. What he sealed was just Yang Hongwu. It was just a strand of thought. One must know that this was still within his own world. As the Lord of the world, to think that he had not realized that he was merely imprisoning a single strand of Yang Hongwu's consciousness. This was an utter humiliation. This was simply an utter humiliation. Little bastard, you're trying to provoke me. You're courting death. Song Emperor was furious. This was a provocation, a provocation. It could be said that Yi Shiwen didn't put him in his eyes at all. This made Song Emperor's heart burn with anger. One should know that the dignity of an expert was not to be trifled with. A divine emperor was absolutely not allowed to be provoked. In fact, a divine emperor was not on the same level as a sovereign. In front of a sovereign, a divine emperor was like an ant that could be easily crushed. Courting death? Yang Hongwu laughed and looked at Song Emperor. I wonder who's the one courting death. Couldn't you have just been a good examiner? Why did you have to come out and cause trouble? Don't blame me for this. Yang Hongwu didn't plan to use his trump card to deal with Song Emperor. He didn't expect that Song Emperor would come out and cause trouble on his own accord. This was absolutely intolerable. After all, Yang Hongwu didn't have absolute confidence in the beginning. One should know that Song Emperor was the examiner of the second divine palace. Of course, Yang Hongwu was very clear that Song Emperor might not be the real Song Emperor. It might just be a clone. Otherwise, Song Emperor wouldn't be this weak. One should know that Song Emperor was a sovereign realm expert, an existence that surpassed the Emperor. The strongest opponent Yi Shiwen had encountered so far was only at the peak of the Emperor realm. However, Song Emperor wasn't that strong. What made Yang Hongwu even more curious was that this was his inner world. A sovereign realm expert was actually so weak in his own world. This had aroused Yang Hongwu's suspicion. Song Emperor was hiding his strength? That was unlikely. Not even a sovereign realm expert could hide from his Dharma Eye of Annihilation. Therefore, this was not very likely. If he was not hiding his strength, then it was possible that he was injured. This possibility was still very high. Why would this guy make a move at this moment? Would he be so impatient to obtain the divine token? Since the divine token was so powerful, how could he not obtain it in his own world? Was there a need for such a scheme? Therefore, one possibility is that he is injured. Another possibility was that this was only one of his incarnations. Like many experts, they would create incarnations while their true body was in a state of closed-door cultivation. This was something that many experts liked to do. Therefore, the Song Emperor's actions were no exception. However, Yang Hongwu was more inclined to believe that both were true. The Azure Emperor himself was injured, and his true body was in seclusion, recovering from his injuries. As for the Azure Emperor here, it was only an incarnation. He was here to complete the mission given to him by Zhiga, and the other reason was that he wanted to obtain the Zhiga God. The Hall Master had left behind the God Channeling Token. While using the God Channeling Token to heal his injuries, he also wanted to improve his strength. However, he had never expected that the Divine Token would be snatched away by Yang Hongwu. Moreover, Yang Hongwu had refined it. How could he not be furious? All his calculations had been in vain. Now, Yang Hongwu actually dared to provoke him. This made him even angrier. Little bastard, today, I will let you know the meaning of despair. Initially, I wanted to give you a chance, but now, you will die without a doubt. Even if you are someone he values, you must die. After saying that, the Song Emperor took action once again. His body instantly enlarged, turning into a giant. This time, the Song Emperor, this giant was majestic and mighty. Looking at the Song Emperor's appearance, Yang Hongwu was reminded of a person. That person was Pangu of the Desolate World. Wasn't Pangu, the one who created the Desolate World, exactly like this? However, the weapon in the Song Emperor's hand was different from Pangu's. The weapon in the Song Emperor's hand wasn't an axe, but a giant staff. This weapon was engraved with ancient and mysterious runes that were filled with the power of destruction. Soul-extinguishing staff. The Song Emperor roared as he swung his staff towards Yang Hongwu. If Yang Hanwu were to be hit by this attack, he would definitely die. Yang Hanwu hurriedly pulled the goddess of the dark night up, and in a flash, they disappeared from their original location. The Azure Emperor's attack smashed into the ground, creating a bottomless pit. The law of the world and the surroundings began to suppress Yang Hanwu and the goddess of the dark night. After all, this was the Tsang Emperor's world. With the Tsang Emperor's terrifying strength, coupled with the suppression of the world will, Anya Shenv was greatly suppressed. However, in front of Yang Hanwu, the suppression was ineffective. The world will might suppress others, but it didn't affect Yang Hanwu at all. It was only effective because he had the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. The Dharma Eye of Annihilation could ignore the suppression of any world law. Unless the strength of the Azure Emperor's inner world had reached an inconceivable level. But evidently, this wasn't the case. In fact, this wasn't the strongest state of the Azure Emperor's inner world, because this wasn't the Azure Emperor's true body. Now, Yang Hanwu could be sure that this was the true body of the Azure Emperor. If the Tsang Emperor was an Empyrean, the suppression of this world would definitely be much stronger and more terrifying. Because this was only an avatar of the Tsang Emperor, this world was probably nothing more than a projection of the Tsang Emperor's inner world. However, the Tsang Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda should be real, and the supreme treasure inside the pagoda should also be real. To Yang Hanwu, this was a piece of good news. Since the Tsang Emperor dared to make a move against him, he couldn't blame him. This time, he would destroy the Tsang Emperor's inner world and seize the Azure Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda. Chapter 1821. It was a force capable of destroying everything in its path, a force capable of destroying the entire world. The appearance of this force instantly struck fear into Tsang Emperor's heart. When he saw the ray of light between Yang Hanwu's eyebrows, his expression changed drastically. He finally understood why Yang Hanwu was so confident. It was the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. As a peerless expert, a sovereign realm expert, how could Tsang Emperor not know about the existence of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation? He had seen the Dharma Eye of Annihilation once before. At that time, he was still very weak, but the power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation had left a deep impression on him. He couldn't be more familiar with the power exuding from Yang Hanwu's body. It was none other than the power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. It was precisely because he had witnessed the terror of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation that he felt a sense of unease and fear when he discovered that Yang Hanwu actually possessed it. As soon as the Dharma Eye of Annihilation appeared, the initiative was no longer in his hands. Tsang Emperor was very clear that once the Dharma Eye of Annihilation appeared, he no longer had a chance. Unless he was willing to pay a greater price. However, if he did so, he might not necessarily succeed. If he failed, the price he had to pay would be too great. I didn't expect you to possess the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. No wonder you were able to obtain the ethereal token. Tsang Emperor looked at Yang Hanwu and said, however, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. Your cultivation is still too weak. Is that so? Yang Hanwu looked at him and said, I've even shown my trump card. Do you think it's that simple? Yang Hanwu sneered. Of course, he could see that Tsang Emperor was already feeling guilty. After all, this was the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. It seemed like Tsang Emperor knew the power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. Anya Shenv was pleasantly surprised when she heard Tsang Emperor's words. She didn't expect Yang Hanwu to be so much stronger than she had imagined. Since it was able to cause the Azure Emperor to feel dread, it naturally wouldn't be so simple. She had never heard of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation before, but from the words world annihilation, she could tell that it wasn't simple at all. After all, it was able to cause the Azure Emperor to feel dread. Who was Tsang Emperor? That was an existence that surpassed the Sovereign Emperor level. Even the half-step Sovereign Emperor 100 Wisdom didn't dare to say anything. But now, in front of Yang Hanwu, he was afraid. Therefore, the Dharma Eye of Annihilation of Annihilation of Annihilation of Annihilation of Annihilation. If you hadn't pushed me so hard, I wouldn't have revealed my trump card. Now that you've forced me to reveal my trump card, it's either you die or I die. Yang Hongwu didn't hesitate, he circulated his energy and unleashed the power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation. A ray of divine light shot out from Yang Hongwu's forehead. This ray of divine light was none other than the light of annihilation. Wherever the light of annihilation touched, everything started to crumble. The entire Tsang Emperor world started to crumble. Tsang Emperor's expression changed drastically under the attack of the light of annihilation. He wanted to block the attack, but he found that it was futile. He couldn't stop the terrifying divine light at all. What made the Tsang Emperor even more terrified was that Yang Hongwu's strength was actually increasing bit by bit. While destroying the Tsang Emperor's world origin, he was also constantly devouring the Tsang Emperor's world energy. This was too much. The Dharma Eye of Annihilation was very powerful, but who would have thought that Yang Hongwu actually had another one? A giant furnace appeared. This furnace released a terrifying devouring power, devouring the Tsang Emperor's world origin that was destroyed by the light of annihilation. In this way, it was extremely disadvantageous for him. His injuries were getting worse and worse, and his losses were increasing. On the other hand, Yang Hongwu's cultivation was getting stronger and stronger. Therefore, he had to think of a solution. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. Throw Yang Hongwu out of his Tsang Emperor world? This wasn't a bad idea, but he wasn't willing to give up now. After all, after so many years of scheming, he was about to succeed. If he had to give up now, he naturally wouldn't be willing to do so. However, if he didn't give up, he would have to face great danger. This caused the Tsang Emperor to be extremely conflicted. Drawing in a deep breath, under the suppression of Yang Hongwu's light of annihilation, the Tsang Emperor finally couldn't endure it any longer. He used his powerful will to suppress Yang Hongwu. The sky turned black. He wanted to mobilize the energy of the entire world to stop Yang Hongwu. First, he would suppress him, then teleport him out of the Tsang Emperor world. Although the Dharma Eye of Annihilation is powerful, as long as I teleport you out of the Tsang Emperor world, you won't be able to do anything. At that time, I will kill you. The Tsang Emperor coldly snorted. Although there was a possibility that his actions would be discovered by Shiga after he teleported Yang Hongwu out of the Tsang Emperor world, it was only a possibility. As long as he could kill Yang Hongwu in the shortest amount of time, there wouldn't be any problems. This was already his last chance. Even if he couldn't kill Qin Wenyan in the shortest amount of time, he still had the advantage. Shiga couldn't possibly kill him for the sake of a dead genius, right? After all, a dead genius was nothing. In fact, he was also very clear that to an expert like Shiga, if the person he fancied died so easily, he wouldn't say anything. Is that so? Yang Hongwu smiled mysteriously. He continued to attack the Tsang Emperor world in a frenzy. Every time he destroyed a part of the world, he would use the devouring furnace to refine it, increasing his cultivation base. Seeing Yang Hongwu acting so recklessly, the Tsang Emperor couldn't help but feel anxious. As the sound of his voice faded, the Tsang Emperor froze. This was because he discovered something that made him extremely terrified. He actually couldn't control his world. He couldn't teleport Yang Hongwu out of the Tsang Emperor world. Impossible, this is impossible. You actually sealed my world? The Tsang Emperor's voice was a little chaotic. He didn't dare to believe that his world was actually sealed. This caused him to be in a daze. He couldn't believe it at all. One must know that sealing a person's world wasn't the same as sealing a space in the outside world. This was the person's own world. If one wanted to seal a person's world, they had to be extremely strong. Furthermore, they had to be someone who cultivated in the Tao of space and had comprehended the Tao of space. Yang Hongwu was definitely not one of them. Firstly, his cultivation base was far from reaching that level. Secondly, he didn't cultivate in the Tao of space, nor did he comprehend the Tao of space. Taking a step back, even if he had comprehended the Tao of space, with his current cultivation base, how could he seal himself? Chapter 1822. Fear, regret, all sorts of emotions flashed across the Azure Emperor's face. At this moment, he was completely helpless against Yang Hongwu. He could only watch as his energy was devoured and refined by Yang Hongwu. He had already isolated himself from the outside world. Unable to control his own world, this space was completely sealed. He regretted not leaving any space for himself. If he had left a part of his consciousness in the outside world, he wouldn't have ended up in his current state. His original body was currently in closed-door cultivation. Furthermore, even if it was his original body, he wouldn't be in this state. If he wasn't in seclusion, he wouldn't be able to rush over. In this space, he had no way to affect Yan Hanwu. He had no way to stop Yan Hanwu. This was the biggest problem. However, the Azure Emperor was after all the Azure Emperor. Although he was slightly flustered, he quickly calmed down. He looked at Yan Hanwu and stated, "This time, you have won. Stop, I will send you to the next Giga Divine Hall. It's too late to admit defeat now. Not only that, your words aren't trustworthy. Hence, I'll kill you first." Yang Hanwu shook his head, showing no signs of stopping. "Brat, don't go overboard." The Azure Emperor stared at Yan Hanwu with bloodshot eyes. "I've already lowered my status and let you pass. Are you still not satisfied? I don't care. Today, I will definitely kill you. No one can stop me." Yang Hanwu coldly stated. You should know that I'm just a clone. My true body is currently in seclusion." The Azure Emperor stared at Yan Hanwu. "If you kill this clone of mine, my true body will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Even if Lord Giga values you highly, you will still die without a doubt. Do you know that? Is that so? Are you threatening me?" Yang Hanwu coldly snorted. "You are too naive. What I hate the most is being threatened. Those who once threatened me are already dead. You will not be an exception." After speaking, Yang Hanwu no longer spoke. His world-annihilating divine light frenziedly gushed forth, unceasingly devouring the source energy of the Azure Emperor realm to strengthen himself. After all, the Azure Emperor world was the projection of a sovereign realm's world. Although it was only a portion of the sovereign realm's world, it was still much stronger compared to ordinary world source energy. This was of great help to Yan Hanwu. The more the Dharma Eye of Annihilation devoured the world's origin power, the more powerful it would become. As such, Yan Hanwu wouldn't let go of such an opportunity, even if it meant offending a true ruler. Furthermore, Yan Hanwu believed that the Azure Emperor wouldn't dare to act recklessly during the test. If he really dared to do so, he wouldn't need to be so secretive. He could have just used his own strength to seize the divine token. Why would he need to go through so much trouble? Damn it, I want to die together with you. The Azure Emperor was enraged. Although he couldn't control the energy of his world, if he wanted to self-detonate, it was still possible for him to do so. Not only that, once he self-detonated a portion of his world, the entire Azure Emperor realm would explode as well. At that time, the entire Azure Emperor realm would be destroyed. Although, if he did so, there would be a huge backlash to his original body. His original body had yet to fully recover from his injuries. If this incarnation of his self-detonated, the damage to his original body would be extremely terrifying. You want to self-detonate? Yang Hanwu saw through the Azure Emperor's intentions. He laughed. How can it be so easy? It's impossible for you to self-detonate in front of me. Soul shackle. Yang Hanwu snorted. Instantly, he discovered that his consciousness and soul were also shackled. However, Yang Hanwu's devouring power and the destructive power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation seemed to have weakened a little. On the other hand, the Azure Emperor himself was completely sealed. Yang Hanwu didn't just seal the space around him, he also sealed his soul. Bastard. The Azure Emperor went berserk at this moment, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as Yang Hanwu slowly devoured the world around him. He couldn't even bring himself to die together with Yang Hanwu. Not far away, Anya Shen had a look of shock on his face. Yang Hanwu's strength was too strong, too terrifying. What he saw before was just the tip of the iceberg. He didn't know how strong Yang Hanwu really was. He was a sovereign realm expert, someone who surpassed the Emperor realm. Although he was an Emperor Realm expert, he knew very well that the gap between the Emperor Realm and the Sovereign Realm was extremely terrifying. It could be said that a half-step Sovereign Realm expert could easily kill a peak Emperor Realm expert. As for a true Sovereign Realm expert, killing an Emperor Realm expert was as easy as killing an ant. It couldn't be easier than crushing an ant. However, Anya Shenv was also very worried. According to Yang Hongwu's plan, he wanted to kill the Azure Emperor. However, the Azure Emperor was after all a candidate of the Divine Palace. If he was killed, wouldn't the Divine Palace Lord be displeased? Moreover, according to the Azure Emperor, he was only a clone. If a clone was already so terrifying, then how strong would his true body be? Young Master Yan. Anya Shen hesitated for a moment before looking at Yan Hongwu. If we really kill the Azure Emperor, won't the Divine Palace Lord be displeased? Of course not. However, Yan Hongwu smiled and said, for the self-defense Divine Hall Master, killing one of his examiners would not only not make him unhappy, but would instead be extremely happy. If it was Yang Hongwu himself who wanted to recruit a disciple, he would do the same. The more outstanding a candidate was, the better. So what if he killed an examiner? If an examiner couldn't even defeat a disciple, then it would be too embarrassing. On the other hand, for the examiner, it would be the opposite. If he was able to kill the examiner, then how terrifying was his strength and talent? How powerful was he? For a powerhouse, if he could find a talented disciple, then it would be something to be happy about. Why would he be displeased? Therefore, Yang Hongwu didn't care about Anya Shen's worries at all. Then, what about the Azure Emperor himself? Anya Shen asked. He said he was only a clone. How strong is his true body? Are you confident you can deal with him? You don't have to worry about that. After the examination, I will leave this side of the world. No matter how strong his true body is, he won't be able to find me. When I grow stronger, I will be able to kill his true body. Yang Hongwu smiled. Wait patiently, I will take care of him. Chapter 1823. Why did Yang Hongwu leave behind a strand of remnant wool instead of completely devouring it? This wasn't because Yang Hongwu couldn't do it, but because Yang Hongwu knew that if he completely refined this strand of remnant wool, the Azure Emperor's true body would be able to sense it. If he wanted to completely refine the Azure Emperor realm, it would be impossible. If that was the case, Yang Hongwu's losses would be exceedingly great. Hence, Yang Hongwu wanted to wait until the Azure Emperor realm was completely refined before he would destroy that last strand of remnant will. Time passed by bit by bit. Yang Hongwu crazily refined the entire Azure Emperor realm. Outside the Azure King realm, those who participated in the test could all feel the changes in the Azure King realm. Originally, the spiritual chi in the Azure King realm was still considered dense. However, because of Yang Hongwu, because of his frenzied attempt to refine the source energy of the Azure King realm, it caused the spiritual chi in the Azure King realm to plummet, decreasing. This was the most direct change in the Azure Emperor realm. The Emperor of Baiji and the others had already realized that something was wrong with the Azure Emperor realm. Hence, they were all thinking of ways to leave the Azure Emperor realm. Lord Saint Child, the Azure Emperor realm is undergoing a huge change. Although we don't know the reason, we can be sure that it's definitely not a good thing. Should we leave the Azure Emperor realm now and enter the next Divine Hall? Beside Anya Tianyi, a girl asked. This girl was also a genius of the Anya clan. Although she couldn't be compared to Anya Shenv, she was still extremely beautiful. She was one of the top 10 beauties of the Anya clan. Although she couldn't be compared to Anya Shenv, she was still a rare beauty. This girl was none other than Anya Tianyi's lover. If we leave like this, we won't have the chance to obtain the supreme treasure, and also won't be able to obtain the divine token. Anya Tianyi wasn't willing to give up just like this. After all, it was the divine token. Saint Child, I know what you're thinking. However, although we are strong, we still can't contend against the Azure Emperor. In this world, he is the ruler. He is invincible. The Holy Maiden said. What a woman. Anya Tianyi coldly snorted. What do you know? For such a huge change to occur in the Azure Emperor world, it should be because something happened to the Azure Emperor himself. If his cultivation base had increased, or if he hadn't encountered any accidents, the Azure Emperor world wouldn't have undergone such a change. At the very least, the situation of the spiritual chi in the Azure Emperor world wouldn't have occurred. The main reason why the spiritual chi in the Azure Emperor world is so thin is because the Azure Emperor himself is injured. In order to heal his injuries, he would need to use the origin energy of the world. Hence, the spiritual chi in the Azure Emperor world is so thin. It's getting thinner. But there is no buts. Anyatiani said. I have to wait. If there is a chance, I won't give up. This is the divine token. Once I obtain it, I will be able to surpass the sun god. Anyatiani's ambition was huge. His goal was to control the Dark Night continent and surpass the sun god. In fact, what he didn't know was that the sun god had also entered this world. On the other side was the divine prince of Apollo Palace. The divine prince of Apollo Palace was merely the reincarnation of the sun god. However, the current divine prince of Apollo Palace could awaken his own strength. Once awakened, the divine prince of Apollo Palace would transform into the real sun god, possessing the same strength as the sun god. Even if he couldn't reach his peak, he would still be an expert in the sovereign realm. At this time, the divine prince of Apollo Palace, as well as the dark spirit saint child and the others, were all waiting for an opportunity. If it wasn't for the fact that the Azure King world was constantly weakening, they wouldn't have chosen to stay. After all, if the Azure King was angered, it wasn't impossible for him to keep them in this world forever. This was what they were worried about. At their level, no one was willing to put their life in the hands of others. They would only feel at ease if their fate was in their own hands. This world is undergoing a huge change. What is the cause of this change? At this moment, the divine prince of Apollo Palace and the dark spirit saint child were together. In fact, the two of them didn't have much of a relationship. Moreover, geniuses were all arrogant and wouldn't easily communicate with others. However, both of them had treasures in their hands and were targeted by the Emperor of Baiji. If they were to fight alone, they definitely wouldn't be a match for the Emperor of Baiji. Therefore, they had no choice but to join forces to fight against the Emperor of Baiji. In fact, if the divine prince of Apollo Palace had recovered his true form, he wouldn't be afraid of the Emperor of Baiji. However, the problem was that he hadn't recovered his true form yet. It has something to do with Yang Hanwu. The dark spirit saint child said. Back then, I saw that Yang Hanwu was extraordinary. There was a terrifying power in his body. He should be the reincarnation of a terrifying expert. In fact, in his previous life, he probably wasn't any weaker than the Azure King. He might even be stronger. The change in the Azure King world is probably caused by the power of Yang Hongwu's previous life. The divine prince of Apollo Palace nodded. Although he wasn't willing to admit it, the possibility was very high. I've decided to leave the Azure King world and enter the next war shrine to begin the test. The dark spirit saint child thought for a moment and said. What about you? What do you think? The divine prince of Apollo Palace hesitated for a moment and sighed. I want to leave the Azure King world first. It's too dangerous here. However, I will wait for Yang Hanwu in the war shrine outside the Azure King world. The divine token is too important. I don't want to give it up. The dark spirit saint child couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Then you have to be careful. If Yang Hanwu is safe and sound, then how terrifying is his strength? You, take care of yourself. After saying that, the dark spirit saint child disappeared. He went to the Azure King Divine Palace to exchange for treasures and then left. The divine prince of Apollo Palace narrowed his eyes. Although he hadn't completely recovered the memory of the sun god, he had recovered a part of it. Therefore, he was still confident. At the same time, Tang Beichen was captured by the Emperor of Baiji. Tang Beichen smiled bitterly. Although his strength had reached the Emperor realm and was very strong, he was able to fight against the top experts of the Emperor realm. He could even kill the top experts of the Emperor of Baiji. However, in front of the half-step sovereign realm, he was still nothing. Chapter 1824. I want something. Emperor Baoji looked at Tang Baichen and said, "What is it?" Tang Baichen looked at Emperor Baoji helplessly. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. After all, the other party was stronger than him. If he was stronger than Emperor Baoji, he would not have been defeated. Emperor Baoji threatened him. "The ancient mysterious jade of your ancient spirit clan." Emperor Baoji said. "Impossible." Tang Baichen immediately refused. What a joke. The ancient Xian godly jade was the most precious treasure of the ancient spirit clan. It was the symbol of the ancient spirit clan's clan leader. There was a huge secret in the ancient Xian godly jade. It was said that this secret could allow one to break through to the sovereign realm. No matter what, Tang Baichen would not give up the ancient mystic divine jade. "Do you want to die?" Emperor Baoji snorted. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Tang Baichen looked around. These people were the geniuses of the Tang family. In fact, they were also the hope of the Tang family. Tang Baichen squinted his eyes and hesitated. He looked at Emperor Baoji and said, "If you want the ancient mysterious jade, I can give it to you. However, you have to promise me one thing." Emperor Baoji looked at Tang Baichen and said. He was surprised that Tang Baichen would still negotiate with him at this time. He thought that Tang Baichen would never give up the ancient mysterious jade. However, after hearing Tang Baichen's words, he wanted to see what conditions Tang Baichen would offer. Originally, he wanted to take it by force. However, the ancient mysterious jade was not an ordinary treasure. Although it contained a huge secret, this secret could only be opened by the purest bloodline of the ancient spirit clan. Therefore, if he really wanted to get the secret of the ancient mystic jade, he needed Tang Baichen's help. Because Tang Baichen was probably the only person in the ancient spirit clan who could open the mysterious jade. No one else was qualified to do so. Otherwise, he would have killed Tang Baichen long ago. Moreover, Tang Baichen's speed of growth surprised him. After all, Tang Baichen had advanced from the Divine Emperor realm to the Imperial Emperor realm. Such a speed was extremely fast. He guessed that Tang Baichen was probably an incarnation of an expert just like him. The reason why Tang Baichen's cultivation had increased was because of this. It was very likely that he had obtained the power of the original body. After all, many experts had the same idea. That was what he did. Therefore, it was not strange for Tang Baichen to do so. "Let's work together to deal with Yan Hanwu. I'll give you the invincible token and leave the rest to me," Tang Baichen said. "Do you think I'm a fool?" Emperor Baiji said. "Yang Hanwu is not strong, but he is now in the hands of the Tsang Emperor. I'm no match for him. You and I are both smart people, why do we need to put on an act?" Tang Baichen said. "The great changes in the Tsang Emperor world should be caused by Yang Hanwu. If I'm not wrong, Yang Hanwu will come out soon. This is the best time for us to deal with Yang Hanwu. It's very deep, but since he was able to come out, he must have suffered heavy injuries from the battle with the Azure Emperor. If we let go of this opportunity, it would be impossible for us to deal with Yang Hanwu in the future. If I'm not wrong, you must have been eyeing Yang Hanwu from the very start. Or should I say, his destiny." Emperor Baiji didn't deny it. His incarnation had indeed been eyeing Yang Hanwu from the start. Or more accurately, he had been eyeing Yang Hongwu's destiny. With a single glance, he could tell that Yang Hongwu's destiny was terrifying. And it was precisely because of this that it was extremely difficult to kill. Not only that, if he failed to kill Yang Hanwu, it would be extremely troublesome. He would suffer a backlash from his destiny. They were very clear that the reason why the Tsang Emperor world was in such a state was because the Tsang Emperor wanted to deal with Yang Hanwu and suffered a backlash. This was extremely terrifying. They were the true heavens chosen, the true unrivaled heavens chosen. If these people wanted to kill them, there was only one way, and that was to kill them in a single strike. If they couldn't kill them in a single strike, they would suffer a backlash. Same to you. Emperor Baiji looked at Tang Beichen. If I'm not wrong, you should be the reincarnation of an ancient ancestor. This has nothing to do with you. Speak, are you willing to cooperate with me? If you are, I can give you the ancient mystic divine jade. Tang Beichen said. I agree. However, you have to give me the ancient mystic divine jade first. Emperor Baiji said. That's impossible. The ancient mystic divine jade isn't in my hands right now. I'm not the patriarch of the ancient spirit clan yet. Naturally, I can't bring the ancient mystic divine jade with me. Moreover, even the patriarch can't bring the ancient mystic divine jade with him. Tang Beichen said. Emperor Baiji thought for a moment. What he said was true. A supreme treasure like the ancient mystic divine jade couldn't be brought with him because it would be a great loss if he lost it. Although the possibility of that happening was very small. Swear the great Tao blood oath. Emperor Baiji looked at Tang Beichen and said. Senior, you don't believe me? Tang Beichen's expression changed slightly. After all, this was a great Tao blood oath, not an ordinary oath. If it was a heavenly Tao oath, they wouldn't care too much about it. As long as they had enough strength, they could resist it. However, a great Tao blood oath was different. Because now, only those who had surpassed the sovereign realm could surpass the great Tao and ignore the punishment of the great Tao. Others couldn't be ignored. Although Tang Beichen wasn't willing, there was nothing he could do. After the two of them reached an agreement, a loud sound suddenly rang out. The entire Azure Emperor world was about to collapse. Not good, the Azure Emperor world is about to be destroyed. Yang Hongwu's luck is truly terrifying. Even with the Azure Emperor's strength, he still couldn't resist it. Emperor Baiji and Tang Beichen's expressions changed drastically when they noticed the sudden change. Let's leave the Azure Emperor world first. Just like the two of them, the godchild of Apollo Palace and the others also noticed the change. The Azure Emperor world was about to collapse. Therefore, everyone had to leave the Azure Emperor world. If they didn't leave, even if they didn't die, they would be exiled into the chaotic void. That would be extremely terrifying. Chapter 1825. The Azure Emperor world is about to collapse. Enter my heavenly palace of destruction. Yang Hanwu said to Anya Shenv. Anya Shenv didn't hesitate, he nodded and entered Yang Hongwu's heavenly palace of destruction. Generally speaking, if one didn't have absolute trust in the other party, they wouldn't easily enter the other party's heavenly palace of destruction. After all, it was the same as putting their own safety in the other party's hands. Anya Shenv didn't hesitate when Yang Hanwu asked him to enter the heavenly palace of destruction. This proved that he had absolute trust in Yang Hanwu. After Anya Shenv entered the heavenly palace of destruction, Yang Hanwu didn't have anything to worry about. He instantly absorbed the source energy of the Azure Emperor world. Yang Hongwu's chi rose to the peak of the sixth godly emperor layer. Boom! With a thunderous sound, the entire space collapsed. The Azure Emperor world was completely destroyed. In the Azure Emperor world, the Azure Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda tried to escape. When Yang Hanwu saw this, how could he be willing to let it go? He stretched out his hand and tried to grab the Azure Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda. The Azure Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda were originally the same supreme treasure. However, there was a mysterious connection between the two of them. When they were fused together, they would become a supreme treasure, the innate life treasure of the Azure Emperor. When the Azure Emperor realm was destroyed and his incarnation was killed, he had already suffered a backlash. If the Azure Emperor Divine Hall and Azure Emperor Pagoda were taken away as well, his losses would be exceedingly great. Hence, when the Azure Emperor's clone was killed, he already felt it. Although he suffered a backlash, the first thing he did was to summon the Azure Emperor Divine Hall and the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda back. Come here. Yang Hanwu only managed to grab hold of the Azure Emperor Divine Hall. As for the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda, it had already fled away in an instant. Yang Hanwu had no choice but to block the Azure Emperor Divine Hall. However, the Azure Emperor Divine Hall was also a supreme treasure. How could it be so easy to seize it? It was the supreme treasure of a peerless expert, and it had an owner. Although Yang Hongwu's strength had increased tremendously, he was still too weak compared to a real dominator. Even the emperor, who was at the peak of his strength, was still inferior. At this moment, he no longer had the support of the formation. The formation he had set up had already dissipated the moment the Azure Emperor realm collapsed. Therefore, without the support of the formation, he couldn't fight against a ruler, let alone an expert like the Azure Emperor. Even if the Azure Emperor was injured, it would still be the same. Luckily, this place was within the Defense Divine Hall. The Azure Emperor's true body couldn't instantly descend here. If his clone wasn't killed, he could borrow the strength of his clone to descend here. Everything was within Yang Hongwu's calculations. If it wasn't for this, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have dared to act against the Azure Emperor. Damn it, who is it? How dare he kill my clone and even want to seize my supreme treasure? How audacious! At this moment, in the depths of an ancient palace, the Azure Emperor was incomparably enraged. His clone was killed and the projection of the Azure Emperor realm was destroyed. Yet, this person actually wanted to seize his Azure Emperor Divine Hall? And the Azure Emperor Divine Pagoda? How could he not be enraged? If his clone wasn't killed, he could borrow the strength of his clone to descend here. But now that his clone was killed, he couldn't use his true body to descend here. It's just a supreme treasure. I don't believe it. Yang Hongwu roared in rage. Once again, he used the power of the devouring furnace to refine the supreme treasure, the Azure Emperor Divine Hall. However, the Azure Emperor Divine Hall was too powerful and had an owner. It was impossible for Yang Hongwu to refine it in such a short period of time. Not to mention, the Azure Emperor was still summoning him. Although Yang Hongwu wanted the supreme treasure very much, he was very clear that if he couldn't refine it in a short period of time, it would cause trouble in the future. Yang Hongwu didn't want his aura to be locked onto by the Azure Emperor. After all, the Azure Emperor was a terrifying expert. Qin Wendian hadn't matured yet. He wasn't strong enough to contend against a true sovereign. I can't get the Azure Emperor Divine Hall, but I must leave the world-breaking hammer behind. Yang Hongwu roared in rage. Grabbing out in the air, the instant the Azure Emperor Divine Hall broke free, he forcefully grabbed the supreme treasure in the exchange space, which was none other than the world-breaking hammer. Damnable little thief. The Azure Emperor was incomparably enraged. He didn't expect that although Qin Wendian didn't take away the Azure Emperor Divine Hall, he still managed to snatch away the world-breaking hammer. Although the world-breaking hammer couldn't be compared to the Azure Emperor Divine Hall, it was still an extremely valuable treasure. How could he not be angry that the world-breaking hammer was snatched away just like that? Brat, I've remembered your aura. At the instant the Azure Emperor Divine Hall was taken away, a voice drifted out from within. Anya Shenfu, who was in the heavenly palace of destruction, naturally heard this voice. How terrifying was the aura emitted by the Azure Emperor! Anya Shenfu couldn't help but feel extremely worried. Sir Yang, what should we do now? It's not a good thing to be targeted by such a powerful expert. Although Anya Shenfu was worried, Yang Hongwu didn't mind at all. He smiled faintly. There's no need to worry. That aura was purposely left behind by me. That's why he won't be able to find me. How could Yang Hongwu be so careless? One must know that although Yang Hongwu's strength was only at the deity emperor realm, as long as he concealed his aura, no one would be able to detect him unless they were existences surpassing the sovereign realm. This was the uniqueness of his cultivation technique. Really? Anya Shen exclaimed in shock. Whose aura did you leave behind? Yang Hongwu replied, the Baiji Emperor. If I'm not wrong, the Emperor should be waiting for me in the Divine Hall. You're so naughty. Anya Shen cast a charming glance at Yang Hongwu. With the destruction of the Azure Emperor realm, many weaker cultivators were unable to leave the Azure Emperor realm and enter the Divine Hall. When Yang Hanwu brought Anya Shen to the second divine hall, the Baiji Emperor and the others instantly sensed Yang Hanwu's aura. Yang Hanwu purposely made his aura flicker, making it extremely weak. In an instant, the Emperor and the others locked onto Yang Hanwu's position. As expected, this brat isn't dead. However, his luck has been greatly diminished. The Baiji Emperor's eyes lit up as a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 1826. In fact, Tang Baichen did not completely trust the Emperor of Baishur. None of the people who could grow to such a level were fools. They were all cunning old foxes. How could they easily trust others, even if the other party had already made a great blood oath? Moreover, while the Emperor of Baishur was scheming against him, Tang Baichen was also scheming against the Emperor of Baishur. Both of them knew that the final outcome would depend on who was more brilliant. Of course, the premise was that both of them had to be able to kill Yang Hanwu first. However, was Yang Hanwu really that easy to kill? If it was that easy, Yang Hanwu would have died countless times. How could he still be alive now? In fact, Yang Hanwu had been on the verge of death many times. Even so, Yang Hanwu was able to turn the misfortune into a blessing every time. TSK. They all want to kill me. Yang Hanwu narrowed his eyes. Of course, he could sense the aura of these people. Not many people could survive, and the strongest few had already locked onto him. They all wanted to kill him. What if we're in trouble? Anya Shen looked at Yang Hanwu and asked, "What do you plan to do?" "What do I do?" Yang Hanwu smiled faintly and said, "What else can we do? Let's run for our lives." Although that was what he said, Yang Hanwu's tone and expression were very relaxed. He did not take these people seriously at all. It was as if they were nothing but chickens and pottery dogs that could not withstand a single blow. Therefore, he was fearless and did not care at all. "I'm serious with you," Anya Shen said coquettishly. "I'm serious too." With that, Yang Hanwu's mind moved, and a clone appeared. It was the secret technique of one chi into three pure ones. "Let's go." Yang Hanwu left the clone behind and left with Anya Shen. Yang Hanwu did not have that much time to play with these people. Of course, he knew that these people were trying their best to deal with him. According to the goddess of the Dark Night's thoughts, since Yang Hanwu was able to kill the incarnation of the Tsang Emperor and even snatch the world-breaking hammer from the Tsang Emperor, he must be extremely powerful. Therefore, if Yang Hanwu wanted to deal with the Dark Knight Tianyi, Emperor of Baishur of Wisdom and the others, there should be no problem. However, Yang Hanwu did not do that, which made her very curious. "You're leaving? You're serious? Didn't you want to kill them all and capture them all in one go?" Yang God's Emperor's Emperor and Emperor of Baishur of Wisdom and the others. He did not expect that Yang was really going to leave. To his surprise, his God Emperor of Baishur of Wisdom and the others. 3S is his divine of divine. 3. He. Why do you want to kill them? Yang Hanwu asked curiously. There's no need. Moreover, our current strength is not enough to kill them. If we really fight them, we don't know who will win. So, there's no need to fight a battle without absolute confidence. Anya Shen looked at Yang Hanwu in surprise. She did not expect Yang Hanwu to refuse so decisively. However, she had to admit that this was the right choice. There was no need to fight Anya Tianyi and the others head-on. It was completely unnecessary. After all, to Yang Hanwu, so what if he won against Emperor of Baishur of Wisdom and the others? He would not get any benefits. Since that was the case, he might as well save his strength for the next Divine Temple's test. Not long after Yang Hanwu left, Emperor of Baishur of Wisdom and Anya Tianyi arrived. Yang Hanwu, you can't escape. Hand over the divine token obediently. Even Anya Tianyi didn't expect Yang Hanwu to be so terrifying. To think that Yang Hanwu would be able to defeat the Azure Emperor General. Such strength couldn't be underestimated. You want the divine token? Dream on. Even the Azure Emperor isn't a match for me. Today, all of you will die here. If you hand over the treasure with both hands and surrender, I might consider sparing your lives." Yang Hongwu's incarnation laughed uproariously. His tone was as arrogant as it could get. Looking at Yang Hongwu's attitude, Emperor of Baisha of Wisdom and the others did not dare to act rashly. Yang Hongwu was so arrogant and domineering, looking at them as if he was looking at dead people. How would they dare to act rashly? Who knew if he really had such a big trump card, or if he was just an arrow at the end of its flight and was just pretending? No one dared to test this point. What if he really had full confidence? The first one to go up would be dead. Don't be afraid of him. He must be an arrow at the end of its flight. How strong is Emperor Tsang? Since he has defeated Emperor Tsang, he must be seriously injured. You should know that even a Dominator Realm expert would be seriously injured if he wanted to kill the other party in Emperor Tsang's world. He will be fine. In fact, he will become even stronger. Emperor of Baisha of Wisdom said. That's right. This kid is definitely faking it. His aura is flickering. It's obvious that he's on the brink of death. His aura is so weak. Tang Baichen nodded. Emperor of Baisha of Wisdom and Tang Baichen had reached an agreement. Both of them wanted to kill Yang Hongwu. At first, they thought it was just the two of them. They didn't expect that Anya Tianyi, the divine child of Apollo Palace, and the others had the same idea. You said it. Go up and try. The divine child of Apollo Palace said. At first, he wanted to leave, but later, he wanted to give it a try and see if there was a chance. At this moment, no one dared to go up. They looked at each other, wanting each other to go up and test the waters. However, no one dared to go up. Yang Hongwu looked at them and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "You trash. Didn't you say that I was seriously injured? Why don't you dare to attack me? Since I've already killed the Tsang Emperor in his inner world, all of you are nothing but ants in front of me. Since you've already killed the Tsang Emperor, if you don't want to make a move, then I will make the first move." As soon as Yang Hongwu said that, Emperor of Baisha of Wisdom and the others became nervous. They instantly retreated a few feet away. Trash. I haven't even made a move and you have already retreated. Didn't you want to kill me? Come on. Yang Hongwu walked towards the crowd step by step. Emperor of Baisha of Wisdom and the others didn't dare to go up. Instead, they took a step back whenever Yang Hongwu took a step forward. Chapter 1827. A moment later, Yang Hongwu's clone appeared next to the Emperor of Baiji. Yang Hongwu attacked. That attack contained Yang Hongwu's strength of creation, karmic flames, and destructive energies. Those three energies intertwined and moved towards the Emperor of Baiji. Even though the Emperor of Baiji was extremely strong, Yang Hongwu's empty space teleportation technique was extremely difficult to defend against. He had no choice but to defend himself. This attack landed on his body in an instant. In a hurry, he could only circulate all of his dermic powers to form a protective shield to block this attack. However, what shocked him was that although the power contained in this attack was not particularly strong, it was very strange. It actually broke through his dermic power barrier and entered his body. It was unrestrained in his body. The Emperor of Baixi pulled a long face. Yang Hongwu's attack had forced him to retreat. The most important thing for him to do now wasn't to kill Yang Hongwu, but to deal with the three strange energies in his body. One of them was a fire-type energy, it was karmic flames, he could feel it. The other one was even more special and powerful. It seemed to be a special kind of original strength. He had never seen it before, but it was extremely difficult to deal with. The last one was destructive. If the first one represented karmic flames and the second one represented karmic flames, then the third represented karmic flames and the third represented karmic flames and karmic flames. Those three energies were different, but they were all destroying his body. Even though those three energies weren't a lot, they were only equivalent to the full strength of a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer. If they had been ordinary energies, he would have been able to deal with them easily. However, those three energies were giving him a headache. The karmic flames weren't that bad. Even though they were powerful, he could still deal with them. However, the other two energies weren't so easy to deal with. That mysterious power of fortune gave him a headache. He could only suppress it first, then slowly grind it away. However, the destructive power actually rushed into his inner world. This was what annoyed and shocked him the most. This power was actually able to destroy his inner world. If it wasn't for the fact that this power was too weak, his inner world would have been destroyed. He was severely injured. This situation caused Monarch 100 Wisdom to involuntarily feel fear. At this moment, if Yang Hongwu's strength was a bit stronger, or if the strength of this attack was even twice as strong, he would be in great trouble. However, even now, he did not dare to be careless. Even though he was confident that he could eliminate Yang Hongwu, he still did not dare to be careless. That energy. Of course, everything happened in the blink of an eye. The Emperor of Baishi didn't know what was going on. Only the Emperor of Baishi knew what was going on. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know. At this moment, the Emperor of Baishi acted like he had nothing to do. He looked at Yang Hongwu, who had retreated a few meters, and said, "That's all there is to it. Yang Hongwu, even though you're fast, you're too weak. You're just a divine emperor. You're not worth mentioning. I'll give you one more chance. Hand over the divine token and I'll spare your life. Is that so?" Yang Hongwu smiled faintly and looked at the Emperor of Baishi. "My attack isn't that easy to deal with. Since you don't care about my attack, let's see how many times you can block it." The Emperor of Baishi's expression changed slightly after hearing Yang Hongwu's words. If such an attack were to come a few more times, it would cause him a lot of trouble. He couldn't guarantee that his inner world would not be damaged if he couldn't solve this problem in time. Once his inner world was damaged, he would be in big trouble. Therefore, Yang Hongwu's threat gave him a headache. He retreated. In the face of Yang Hongwu's threat, the Emperor of Baishi actually retreated. This made the divine son of Apollo Palace and the others realize the truth. Yang Hongwu was definitely not that simple. Even though they didn't know the details of his battle with Prince Tsang, Yang Hongwu had survived and the Tsang King world had collapsed. This was enough to prove how terrifying Yang Hongwu's strength was. Logically speaking, Yang Hongwu should have fought with an expert like Prince Tsang. Even if he won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. However, it seemed like the situation wasn't as simple as they thought. Yang Hongwu was still very powerful. In addition to Monarch Baishi's probing, everyone was even more afraid of Yang Hongwu. One must know that Monarch Baishi was a half-step sovereign. His strength was unimaginable. In terms of cultivation base and realm, no one was stronger than him. However, he just happened to be fighting against Yang Hong. However, when he fought with Prince Tsang, he was at a disadvantage. "Tang Beichen, what do you think? Is Yang Hongwu faking it?" The divine son of Apollo Palace stood beside Tang Beichen and asked. After all, Tang Beichen was the only one who had stayed with Yang Hongwu for a period of time. Therefore, if one were to ask about Yang Hongwu's understanding, there weren't many people who could be compared to him. "I don't know either." Tang Beichen shook his head. "This brat has a lot of trump cards. His greatest strength is in formations," Montenegro said. In fact, he had seen Yang Hongwu's strength and knew how terrifying Yang Hongwu was. In fact, the most terrifying thing about Yang Hongwu wasn't his cultivation or strength, but his ability to, when facing an enemy, they would become even more powerful. However, there was no need for him to say those things. Among the people present, if one were to say who hated Yang Hongwu to the bone, it would be the Black Mountain Old Demon. The other person would naturally be Anya Tianyi. After all, Yang Hongwu was the one who made Anya Tianyi lose face. Formation. Everyone's face darkened as they recalled the terrifying formation that Yang Hongwu had set up. When he first set up that formation, everyone had paid a huge price to break it. At this moment, they had almost forgotten about it. Luckily, Montenegro reminded them. Yang Hongwu had set up the formation silently. No one could detect it at all. Who knew if this brat had already set up a formation here? If everyone was sealed in the formation, it would be troublesome. Chapter 1828. Not good, we can't let him set up the formation. The countenances of the crowd drastically changed when they saw this scene. If Yang Hongwu's formation was completed, the outcome would be disastrous. They guessed that the reason why the Azure Emperor was defeated was because of Yang Hongwu's formation. After all, in the inner world of a supreme expert, how could he be defeated? Even his inner world was destroyed. It was difficult for anyone else to do this. Without the power of the formation, Yang Hongwu would never be able to do this. Hence, when they saw Yang Hongwu setting up the formation, everyone panicked. Everyone attacked together, attacking Yang Hongwu. When everyone's attacks landed on Yang Hongwu's body was instantly shattered, turning into ashes. This scene stunned everyone. However, the array had already been activated, and everyone was enveloped within it. None of them thought that Yang Hongwu was killed. This was probably another one of Yang Hongwu's schemes. This formation isn't simple. Emperor Baizhi frowned. This little bastard is really cunning. This formation didn't seem to have any strong offensive power. However, everyone didn't dare to be careless. Everyone, let's break the formation together. Everyone nodded. Then, they joined forces and attacked the spirit formation. A crack appeared on the spirit formation. This time, it was actually so easy to break the formation. Just one more attack would be enough to break the formation. This seemed to be a little too easy. Everyone had to pay a huge price to break the formation before, but this time, it wasn't difficult at all. It was because of this that everyone was even more worried. This little bastard, don't tell me he has other plans. Montenegro said worriedly. I don't know, but we don't have any other choice. Emperor Baizhi said, no matter what, we have to break the formation first. At this moment, Yang Hongwu and Anya Shenv had already entered the third divine palace of self-defense. Of course, Yang Hongwu saw everything that happened. He didn't expect that a mere clone of his could threaten so many people, causing them to be so fearful. This made Yang Hongwu quite amused. In fact, that incarnation had already dissipated when they attacked together. After all, setting up a spirit formation consumed a lot of energy. After setting up that spirit formation, there was not much energy left. Furthermore, it was attacked by their joint attacks. Thus, it had long since dissipated. Even though the incarnation had already dissipated, those people were still afraid of being tricked by him. This made Yang Hongwu happy. Master Yang, what made you so happy? Anya Shenv asked curiously when he saw Yang Hongwu's smile. It's nothing. Anya Tianyi and the others were frightened by my incarnation. Yang Hongwu replied. Even Emperor Baizhi didn't dare to act rashly. How embarrassing. That's because you're too powerful. The goddess of the dark night also smiled. That was just one of Yang Hongwu's incarnations. She didn't expect that just one incarnation would make Anya Tianyi and the others not dare to act rashly. This surprised her. After entering the third divine palace of self-defense, it meant that they had entered the third stage. This divine palace of self-defense contained a very strong power. Yang Hongwu wanted to let Pang Lijuan and Pang Liren out, but he hesitated and didn't do so. This divine palace of self-defense should be even more terrifying than the previous two divine palaces of self-defense. During the assessment of the Halberd Divine Hall, Yang Hongwu had already encountered a variable like the Tsang Emperor. It was unknown whether the same thing would happen again in the Halberd Divine Hall. Therefore, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to take the risk. Congratulations on entering the third divine palace of self-defense. Yang Hongwu heard a majestic voice as soon as they entered the divine palace of self-defense. After entering the divine palace of self-defense, they realized that this divine palace of self-defense was different. This time, they entered a macro world. This macro world was connected to the myriad worlds of self-defense. In this round of assessment, you will be competing with geniuses from all over the universe. Therefore, it will be very dangerous this time. Those who can enter this round of assessment are all geniuses among geniuses. Of course, you are from a third-rate plane, so you will also be facing geniuses from third-rate planes. However, don't underestimate them. The geniuses from third-rate planes are also very powerful and terrifying. Yang Hanwu, you are the most outstanding genius that master values in the third-rate planes. Don't die here. The person revealed a trace of his face and waved his hand. Yang Hanwu and Pang Lijuan disappeared after being sent into the macro world. In the next moment, Yang Hanwu and Pang Lijuan appeared outside a huge city. This city was called the Dark Night City. Young Master Yang, congratulations. You have entered the eyes of the Lord of Self-Defense Divine Palace. Your future is limitless. Anya Shenv was very surprised when he heard that person's words, but he was also very happy for Yang Hanwu. Yang Hanwu smiled bitterly. For Yang Hanwu, entering the eyes of such a big shot was actually not a good thing. Yang Hanwu did not care. After all, Yang Hanwu did not want to go to the Lord of Self-Defense Divine Palace right now. Moreover, that person thought so highly of him. Who could be sure that he did not have some tricks up his sleeve? Therefore, Yang Hanwu was still a little worried. At least, before he fully matured, Yang Hanwu could not easily meet such an expert. If the other party wanted to harm him, he would not even be able to resist. This is nothing to brag about. To be honest, this is not a good thing. If this matter spreads, I will probably become the target of public criticism. Yang Hanwu said. That is true. If this matter spreads, I am afraid it will be very troublesome. Anya Shen nodded. He was very clear about this. In the third Self-Defense Divine Palace examination, there was a macro world. There were countless cities here, and each city was a genius of a small plane. For example, the city of the Dark Night continent was this Dark Night City. Yang Hanwu was reminded of this by that mysterious person. What Yang Hanwu was thinking about now was whether or not there was a city in the Divine Realm. After all, the Self-Defense Divine Palace was connected to the myriad worlds. If it was not connected to the God Realm, it would be somewhat troublesome. Yang Hanwu originally wanted to leave and return to the God Realm. Chapter 1829. Yang Hanwu was very curious. This was only the third Divine Palace's assessment, and he already had to compete with geniuses from all over the universe. What would he encounter in the remaining 6 Divine Palaces? This made Yang Hanwu more and more surprised. In fact, in the first and second Divine Halls, the difficulty of the assessment had increased because he had brought Pang Liren and Pang Lijuan along. However, in the third assessment Divine Hall, it should have nothing to do with whether he had brought people along with him or not. After all, this was not an individual assessment, but a competition between geniuses from all over the universe. Yang Hanwu still had not figured out how to pass this Divine Palace's assessment and enter the next Divine Palace. In fact, Yang Hanwu originally wanted to return to the Divine Realm through this Divine Palace. After all, he could not afford to delay. What if the Divine Realm had collapsed by the time he returned, or something had happened to his women by Hu Shou'er, Xin Qiushuang and the others? He would be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Yang Hanwu did not care about gaining the recognition of such a peerless expert and becoming his disciple. He just wanted to return to the Divine Realm as soon as possible. Therefore, for Yang Hanwu, it was not important whether he could pass the Divine Palace's assessment. What was important was how to return to the Divine Realm as soon as possible. This was the key. Perhaps, he could find a way to return during the assessment. Let's go. Let's enter the city. Yang Hanwu looked at the city in front of him and said. He did not know whether there were other warriors from the Dark Night continent in this city. However, if there were no warriors from the Dark Night continent in this city, why was it called Dark Night City? What Yang Hanwu was curious about was, if there were martial artists from the Dark Night continent in this city, how long had these martial artists been in this realm? Who are you? Stop. Yang Hanwu and Hu Shou'in were stopped by the guards when they arrived at the city gate. These guards were very vigilant. Seeing the arrival of Yang Hanwu and Hu Shou'in, they were very nervous. Yang Hanwu frowned slightly. It seemed that the Dark Night City was not as simple as it seemed. Something must have happened. The atmosphere of the entire Dark Night City seemed to be very tense. "We are warriors from the Dark Night continent," Yan Hanwu said. "I'll have to trouble the two of you to report to the City Lord Manor." "What Dark Night continent's martial artists?" "We don't know." "You must be Flame City's spies." "Men, capture them." At this moment, the guard's expression changed. He pointed at Yan Hanwu and shouted. As soon as these words came out, all the guards rushed forward. These guards weren't weak. The weakest of them was a Divine Lord Realm martial artist. This made Yan Hanwu very surprised. It seems like Dark Night City wasn't weak. Or it could be said that the martial artists of this world weren't weak. After all, these mere guards were all at the Divine Lord Realm. Then, if they were at the general level, just how strong would they be? Just a small captain with a cultivation of early Divine Emperor Realm. The City Lord of this city was probably not weak. He might even be a half-step Sovereign Realm expert. Yan Hanwu also didn't rashly use the Dharma Eye of Annihilation to investigate the situation of this city in this world. After all, the Dharma Eye of Annihilation had swallowed a lot of the Azure Emperor's Azure Emperor world's origin energy. Moreover, once the Dharma Eye of Annihilation was used, it might be discovered. Once it was discovered, it would be troublesome and he might be targeted, which was something Yan Hanwu didn't want. Therefore, Yan Hanwu didn't use the Dharma Eye of Annihilation to investigate the situation of Dark Night City. If Yan Hanwu wanted to use it, he could still clearly investigate the situation of Dark Night City. However, it was completely unnecessary. "You've gone too far," Yan Hanwu said coldly. "We don't know anything about Flame City. Quickly go and report to the City Lord of Dark Night City. If you delay, I'm afraid you will be in trouble." Yan Hanwu was infuriated by the rude behavior of these guards. They didn't even investigate the situation before attacking him. Anya Shenv was the same. "Humph, you lackeys of Flame City. You want to enter my Dark Night City to gather information? Why don't you take a good look at who I, Longshire, am? All spies have nowhere to hide in my eyes. Moreover, at this time, it doesn't matter if you are spies from Flame City or not. I'd rather kill 100 by mistake than to let a single one of you go," the captain of the guards said coldly. "Go, all of you. Capture them. Old Six, go and call for reinforcements. These two have extraordinary strength, we will hold them back for a while." "Yes, boss," said the guard called Old Six. His speed was astonishing. Yan Hanwu was surprised. There were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the Dark Night City. That guard named Old Six had comprehended a hint of the Wen Dao. It was amazing. If someone could give him some pointers, he would definitely have a great achievement in the future. "I'm giving you face, but you don't want it," said Yan Hanwu, groaning coldly. He released an oppressive chi. Those people were the strongest, they were only at the initial godly emperor layer. With his strength of the 6th godly emperor layer, he could easily defeat them. After all, he could even defeat ruler cultivators. Those were just godly emperors, he could easily defeat them. As expected, when Yan Hanwu's aura exploded out, the guards were instantly suppressed to the point of being unable to breathe. The difference in strength was too great. Fuck. How is this guy so strong? Longshire's expression changed. Even though he couldn't breathe, he didn't beg for mercy. He stared at Yan Hanwu and shouted, "Don't be complacent too early. The experts of Dark Night City will be here soon. It's not too late for you to surrender. Otherwise, you'll die." "How arrogant," said Yan Hanwu, groaning coldly. "I'm curious to see how strong the strong cultivators of Dark Night City are. If they're as strong as you, they won't be able to withstand a single attack. How arrogant. I'd like to see who dares to be so presumptuous as to cause trouble in my Dark Night City." At that moment, a loud voice came from afar. The moment Yan Hanwu released his aura, Wan Hongliang had already sensed it. Wang Hongliang was an elder of the Dark Night City and was very strong. Chapter 1830. Who are you? You don't look like you're from Flame City. Why are you here in Dark Night City? Since Wang Hongliang was able to become a consecrator of Dark Night City, he wasn't a fool. Even though Dark Night City and Flame City were arch-enemies and seemed to be on the verge of a war, Wang Hongliang knew that Dark Night City had many spies from Flame City, but it was impossible for them to send such an outstanding genius to Dark Night City. Wang Hongliang understood this point very well. After all, such a genius was a huge threat to any city. They were all very important. They were definitely important targets to nurture. It was impossible to let them fall into danger. Therefore, the possibility of these two people being spies from Flame City wasn't high. However, the problem was that these two people were here to provoke Dark Night City. If they didn't deal with it properly, it would be a huge blow to the prestige of the City Lord Palace. Therefore, whether or not these two were sent by their rivals, they had to go through with it. Otherwise, where would Dark Night City put its face? I've said it before. We're from Dark Night Continent. Naturally, we're here in Dark Night City. Yan Hanwu said, "Can you make the decision in Dark Night City? If not, call the City Lord over." You're from Dark Night Continent? Wang Hongliang's eyes lit up when he heard this. He looked at Yan Hanwu in disbelief. That's right. It seems like you know something. Yan Hanwu nodded. Wang Hongliang was after all a high-ranking official in Dark Night City. Some low-ranking guards might not know, but as a consecrator of Dark Night City, he was already a high-ranking official in Dark Night City. If he didn't know this, then it was normal. That would be really strange. Everyone, leave. Wang Hongliang looked at Longshu and the other guards, then turned to Yan Hanwu and Anya Shenv. I'm not sure if you're really from there. However, this isn't the place to talk. Follow me. Yan Hanwu and Anya Shenv looked at each other and followed. Yan Hanwu was bold and wasn't afraid that this guy would plot against him. To Yan Hanwu, this guy's strength wasn't bad, but he was still far from enough to deal with them. There was a strong aura in the dark night. However, Yan Hanwu wasn't afraid of him. If they really fought, Yan Hanwu was confident that he could escape unscathed. Therefore, Yan Hanwu wasn't worried at all. Soon, Yan Hanwu and Anya Shen followed Wang Hongliang into the city and came to a small courtyard. This courtyard was set up with a formation. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to notice it, but to a formation expert like Yan Hanwu, although this formation was mysterious, it was nothing. He didn't care about it at all. If he wanted to break the formation, it would be a piece of cake. After entering the courtyard, Wang Hongliang ordered the servants to prepare fruits and tea. Please take a seat, Wang Hongliang said to Yan Hanwu and Anya Shenv. Yan Hanwu and Anya Shenv nodded and sat down. You're bold. Aren't you afraid that I'll attack you? Wang Hongliang looked at Yan Hanwu and Anya Shenv. They followed him without hesitation. Weren't they afraid that he would plot against them? If the two of them didn't have absolute confidence in themselves, then they were just too shallow. However, people who could grow to such a level weren't simple. Since they dared to come, the first possibility was more likely. This woman was indeed very strong. Wang Hongliang wasn't confident that he could deal with her. As for this young man, his cultivation realm wasn't high. However, he didn't know how strong he was. For some special geniuses, those true peerless geniuses, their realms didn't mean anything. It didn't represent their true strength. No, you won't. Besides, even if you do, I'm not afraid, Yan Hanwu said. Well, your strength is very average, Anya Shen said. I can deal with you, let alone him. Wang Hongliang was embarrassed when he heard this. It hurt his pride. Ahem, let's not talk about this. Are you two really from the Dark Night Continent? Wang Hongliang looked at them seriously. Do you have any evidence? We don't need evidence. Yan Hanwu said. It's up to you to believe it or not. It's not a big deal for me. If I want to fight, no one in Dark Night City can stop me. Yang Hongwu's tone was very confident. Wang Hongliang frowned slightly. He was a little dissatisfied. Little brother, I admit that your strength is very good, but our Dark Night City is not to be trifled with. In our Dark Night City, my strength is nothing. There are many people who are stronger than me, Wang Hongliang said. If you really come looking for trouble, I guarantee that you will regret it. Of course not. Yang Hongwu smiled. However, I can tell you that I'm telling the truth. You have set up a formation in this place. If I'm not wrong, if we want to fight, you will activate the formation. However, in front of me, your formation is too weak. Not to mention the formation in your small courtyard, even the Great City Protection Formation in Dark Night City is like a piece of paper in front of me. I can easily break it. What a big mouth. Wang Hongliang was completely angry. This kid doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He's here to make trouble. Let me see what you're capable of. After saying that, Wang Hongliang instantly flashed. He waved his hand and a starlight burst out. He made a seal and activated the formation in an instant. Yang Hongwu smiled and flicked his finger. The finger attack hit the center of the starlight, and the spell formation was instantly broken. Wang Hongliang's body trembled, and his face went pale. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. That attack had caused him to suffer quite a bit of backlash. The spell formation had been broken. You? Who the hell are you? Only now did Wang Hongliang realize how terrifying his opponent was. This young man had broken the formation of his small courtyard with a single strike. How terrifying was his strength! The formation of his courtyard was set up by one of his best friends. His best friend was a master of formations and his attainments in formations were extremely high. The Great City Protection Formation of Dark Night City was set up by him. As for the formation of his courtyard, it was impossible for ordinary people to break it. Even the city lord would have to pay a huge price if he wanted to break through the formation. It was even more impossible for him to do so. Chapter 1831. Don't bother. I'm already here. As soon as Yang Hongwu finished his words, he heard a voice. The owner of the voice appeared at the gate of the courtyard. Yang Hongwu squinted his eyes and looked at the man. This man was very powerful. He had appeared without Yang Hongwu noticing. Obviously, only a member of the Anya clan could do that. Moreover, he had to be a very powerful person. Ordinary members of the Anya clan were not that powerful. Ordinary members of the Anya clan couldn't do that. You're indeed the saintess of the Anya clan. You're talented and powerful. The man glanced at Anya Shenv and then at Yang Hongwu. You have good taste. This guy has a bright future. He's much better than you. Anya Shenv blushed slightly and didn't explain. Senior, are you also from the Dark Night continent? Yang Hongwu looked at the man in front of him and asked. Yes. He nodded and said, I'm Anya Ilong. I've been in this world for 1,000 years. Yang Hongwu was stunned. Anya Shenv was the same. 1,000 years. This was strange. The defense stopping order didn't appear once every 1,000 years on the Dark Night continent. However, Anya Ilong said that it had only been 1,000 years since he entered this world from the Dark Night continent. Could it be that the flow of time was different? Senior, are you sure it's 1,000 years? Anya Shenv said, as far as I know, the defense stopping order didn't appear in the Dark Night continent 1,000 years ago. Anya Ilong smiled and said, it's normal. The flow of time in this world is different from that in the Dark Night continent. 1,000 years here may be 10,000 years in the Dark Night continent, or even longer. I see. Anya Shenv understood. Senior, what's the situation in this world now? Yang Hongwu asked, how can I enter the next defense-stopping Divine Palace? Or, how can I return to the Dark Night continent? Go back to the Dark Night continent? I don't know. As for the next Divine Palace, it's very difficult. Anya Ilong smiled bitterly. Every 100 years, this world will open the heavenly path. Anyone who passes through the heavenly path will be able to enter the next Shiga divine palace. But it's very difficult. Heavenly path? That's right. The Heavenspan path is located in the center of the Heavenspan continent. I forgot to tell you, but this world is called the Heavenspan continent. On the Heavenspan continent, there are tens of thousands of cities. Each city receives geniuses from a different world. Anya Ilong paused for a while and said, "Think about it, what does it mean to have over 10,000 cities? It means that geniuses from over 10,000 micro-worlds will enter this world. Every time, 10 geniuses from each micro-world will be qualified to enter the Tongtian continent. 10,000 geniuses will be equal to 100,000 geniuses. Every time, 100,000 geniuses will pass through the Tongtian path. It's more than 100 people, or even less. From this, we can see how difficult the heavenly path is." "Senior, have you tried to pass through the heavenly path?" asked Yang Hanwu. Yang Hanwu was more and more curious about this world. Originally, Yang Hanwu had thought that to enter the next Shiga divine palace, one would have to fight between cities. He hadn't expected it to be the heavenly path. This so-called heavenly path's passing rate was so low. Yang Hanwu was surprised. He was surprised. This Anya Ilong was very strong. If he hadn't activated the formation, Yang Hanwu wouldn't have had the slightest chance to deal with him. It could be seen how strong this guy was. If this guy couldn't pass through the heavenly path, Yang Hanwu was very surprised. Yang Hanwu also knew that some old antiques might be restricted due to their age. It was also possible that some experts were content with the status quo and didn't want to give up their power. Therefore, they didn't try to pass through the heavenly path. "I passed," said Anya Ilong. "Unfortunately, I don't have the chance." "Why do you say that? Are there any restrictions on the heavenly path?" "With senior strength, passing through the heavenly path shouldn't be too big of a problem, right?" Yang Hanwu asked curiously. "How could it be so simple?" Anya Ilong smiled bitterly. The heavenly path, can lead to the sky. Once you pass it, it's like a fish leaping over the dragon gate. There are no special restrictions on the heavenly path. Everyone can try it, but there's only one chance. If you fail, you'll have a second chance. Senior means that this heavenly path can only be attempted once? Anya Shenv asked. If you fail once, you won't have a second chance. That is indeed the case. In the beginning, I didn't know anything. Moreover, I was too conceited. I thought that I was a first-rate genius, and that the trifling heavenly path wouldn't be a problem for me. However, I underestimated the heavenly path, and overestimated myself. And Yilong said, "Now, it's too late. I won't have another chance." At this point, Anya Ilong was filled with emotions. Yang Hanwu and Anya Shenv looked at each other. They saw the determination in each other's eyes. They wouldn't give up, and they wouldn't wait too long. "Senior, do you have a way to send us directly to the heavenly path?" Yang Hanwu asked. "You want to go to the heavenly path now?" Anya Ilong was startled. There's only half a year left before the heavenly path opens. However, I suggest that you wait at least 100 years until the next time the heavenly path opens. After all, although your cultivation isn't bad, it's still not enough. If you want to pass through the heavenly path, you're still far from enough. When Yang Hanwu heard this, he shook his head and said, "Senior, to tell you the truth, I cannot wait that long. I still have matters to attend to and have to return as soon as possible. I cannot stay in the self-defense divine hall's test for too long. That's not a problem. Perhaps if you finish the examination here and return to the Dark Night continent, only a few days or even a few hours will have passed." Anya Ilong said. "Thus, you don't need to worry about this. Moreover, the examination for the heavenly path is too difficult. If you don't prepare, it's impossible to pass. In addition, if you want to go to the heavenly path, you must first obtain something. A teleportation token. A teleportation token to enter the heavenly path. Without a teleportation token, you can't enter. This teleportation token is the first test to enter the heavenly path, unveil said. Chapter 1832. Defeating 10 geniuses wasn't difficult at all. For Yang Hongwu, it wasn't difficult at all. Of course, it was the same for the goddess of the dark night. Both of them were very confident. Don't think that it's so simple. This is just a threshold. There are monstrous geniuses in every city. Unless you have enough confidence to defeat the most outstanding geniuses in every city. Because once you defeat one of them, the most outstanding geniuses in that city will attack you. Even if you are besieged by all the warriors in that city, it's just like our Dark Knight city. If the geniuses from other cities come here to challenge us and defeat one of them, everyone will rush to attack you. So, to obtain the transmission token, you must have enough strength. You must have enough strength to defeat all the experts in the 10 cities. Unveil said. So, is it possible to cheat? Anya Shenv looked at Unveil and asked. Indeed, it's possible to cheat, but who would be willing to do so? After all, once you are defeated, you will lose the opportunity to enter the heavenly path. If a warrior fails once, he will lose the opportunity to enter the heavenly path. So, no one is willing to help others. Give up on themselves. Unveil said. Yang Hongwu sighed with emotion. He thought that defeating 10 geniuses and obtaining the transmission token to enter the heavenly path would be an easy task. However, after hearing Unveil's words, Yang Hongwu understood that the difficulty of entering the heavenly path was very high. Without enough strength and luck, one would be able to enter the heavenly path. Without sufficient strength and luck, one would have no chance to obtain the transmission token to enter the heavenly path. Those who could enter the heavenly path were all peerless geniuses with outstanding talent and amazing luck. The pressure of competition was beyond Yang Hongwu's imagination. Everyone who could enter the heavenly path was a genius among geniuses. Originally, those who could enter the third divine palace were all top geniuses of their respective worlds. And in the world of the third divine palace of self-defense, even more outstanding geniuses had to be selected from these worlds. Thus, it could be seen that these people who enter the heavenly path. Most importantly, the number of people who could pass the path to heaven was extremely small. It was hard to imagine how high the standards of the divine palace's leader were. Were they really going to such great lengths just to find an outstanding disciple? Yang Hongwu didn't believe this. If it was really just to find a disciple who could obtain his inheritance, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Yang Hongwu began to suspect that this was the goal of the self-defense divine hall. This was definitely not a good thing. However, Yang Hongwu could not guess the thoughts of the self-defense divine hall master, nor could he see through them. His cultivation was too low, and he was not on the same level as the self-defense divine hall master. Thus, it was natural that he could not guess the thoughts of the self-defense divine hall master. Even if there were people who knew that the master of the self-defense divine hall harbored ill intentions, no one would be able to resist such a great temptation. After all, a breakthrough in cultivation and the temptation of some supreme treasures were fatal to them. For any cultivator, being able to reach a higher level was their lifelong pursuit. For us, obtaining 2 transmission tokens is not a difficult thing, Yang Hongwu said. That's right. Brother Yang's strength is extraordinary. Not to mention defeating the experts of 10 cities, he can even defeat all the geniuses. As long as Brother Yang wants to, he can become the strongest person in this world, Anya Shen said confidently. It's not easy to become the most outstanding genius in the sky-reaching continent. The title of the strongest person in the sky-reaching continent is a great temptation to any cultivator. In fact, to leave the sky-reaching continent and enter the next self-defense divine hall, there is another way, and that is to become the strongest person in the sky-reaching continent. For many years, the only way to enter the next self-defense divine hall is to find a way to become the strongest person in the sky-reaching continent. For so many years, this is the only way to enter the next self-defense divine hall. There is only one person in the divine hall, and his name is the sovereign of the sky-reaching continent, Enchilong said. Sovereign of the sky-reaching continent? What a big tone. Yang Hongwu's eyes narrowed when he heard this. The title of Sovereign of the Heavens was quite resounding. Ordinary people couldn't bear such a title. Sovereign of the Heavens. TSK, there were as many geniuses as there were clouds in the heavens completion continent. There were countless geniuses in the sky-reaching continent. After all, the sky-reaching continent was a place where geniuses from countless planes gathered. If one wanted to become the sovereign of the sky-reaching continent, how terrifying and powerful would one have to be? Although there were many geniuses, in fact, they were nothing before they grew up. Moreover, which genius who could enter the sky-reaching continent was willing to submit to others? The title of the number one person was a great temptation for any warrior. Even Yang Hongwu's eyes flashed when he heard it. However, Yang Hongwu was still able to control himself. After all, for Yang Hongwu, being the number one person in the sky-reaching continent was beneficial to him, but that was it. Yang Hongwu threw these thoughts aside and looked at An Yilong. Senior, may I know which 10 cities are the closest to Anya City? The closest is Flame City, followed by Gale City and Ice Emperor City. An Yilong looked at Yang Hongwu and hesitated for a moment before he said it. He could see that Yang Hongwu had already made up his mind. Even if he did not say it, Yilong would know it anyway, so he might as well say it. In fact, An Yilong also wanted to slow down Yang Hongwu and Anya Shenv. After all, for a city, if there were more geniuses, they would be able to defeat other cities after they grew up. This would make Anya City more glorious and obtain more luck. In the sky-reaching continent, if there were more geniuses and experts in a city, the city would become more prosperous and powerful. As the city lord, the more prosperous and powerful the city was, the greater the benefits he would obtain. Chapter 1833. Flame City's people are despicable. An Yilong's expression changed. Flame City and Dark Night City had always been archenemies. Both sides had fought countless times over the years, but neither side had gained the upper hand. However, recently, Flame City had become arrogant and had been looking for trouble with Dark Night City. Who would have thought that this time, Flame City would come knocking on their door? This made An Yilong extremely angry. Alright, let's go and take a look. Let's see how strong Flame City's people are. Yang Hongwu said. Alright. I suspect that Flame City dared to come knocking on our door because the Flame Continent's geniuses have already come, just like you two. However, I'm curious, why are there only 2 of you in Dark Night Continent? Could it be that the others have failed? An Yilong asked. An Yilong was also clear about this point. Generally speaking, there were very few people who could enter the 3rd shrine in the War God Shrine's assessment. However, there were still 10 spots. However, these 10 spots might not be full. In other words, if one's strength wasn't enough, they might not be able to fill the quota. There were 10 spots. Some weaker planes only had 1 spot. Of course, there were also some planes that didn't have a single spot. This was very normal. Generally speaking, every 1,000 years, a city would have 4 or 5 geniuses enter the sky-penetrating continent. Dark Night City had 6 geniuses the last time, but unfortunately, only An Yilong was left. Many of them had died in the sky-penetrating continent. Among them, 3 of them had died because they had fought against Flame City's people. Therefore, Dark Night City and Flame City had always been archenemies. Although both sides were like fire and water, they couldn't do anything to each other. Every 1,000 years, when a newcomer entered, both sides would fight. Therefore, this time, Flame City had come aggressively to provoke them. It was probably because Flame City had newcomers who were quite strong. This time, I'm afraid we'll have to depend on you too. An Yilong looked at Yang Hongwu and said, if I'm not wrong, Flame City should have a genius from the Flame Continent. His strength shouldn't be weak. Just in time. The corners of Yang Hongwu's mouth curled into a smile. No matter how many people came, he didn't care. After all, he had to defeat 10 people in order to obtain a teleportation token. Moreover, he had to defeat 10 geniuses from 10 cities. Flame City was the first one. Yang Hanwu didn't know if Pang Liren and Pang Li Juan in his inner world needed a teleportation token, but it wasn't wrong to prepare first. Logically speaking, as long as the two girls didn't come out of his inner world, he wouldn't need a teleportation token. Yi Yilong's a Yi Yilong, and Yi Yilong, and Yi nodded. Anya Yilong nodded and said, however, you still have to be careful. We don't know the strength of the other party, so you can't lower your guard. I will send people to probe the other party first. After that, it won't be too late for you to take action. Yang Hanwu knew what Yi Yilong was thinking. He was worried that the two of them wouldn't be a match for the other party. Yang Hanwu didn't care about this point. It's fine. Yang Hanwu smiled and said, but it's good to test them out. Anyway, there was no harm in it. Although Yang Hanwu was confident, it was Yi Yilong's good intention. At least, after Anya Yilong confirmed that he and the Dark Night Goddess came from the Dark Night continent, Anya Yilong didn't show any malice towards them. Yang Hanwu sighed. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be so trusting and kind. Of course, Yang Hanwu knew that Yi Yilong wasn't a saint. He treated Yang Hanwu and Yi Yilong like this because Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen had helped him. However, Yi Yilong didn't know what benefits Yi Yilong and Yi Yilong had. Yang Hanwu thought for a moment, then looked at Anya City. This city was closely related to the city lord, Anya Yilong. The more prosperous and powerful the city was, the more powerful Anya Yilong would be. Anya Yilong wanted to use Yang Hanwu to make the city even more prosperous and powerful. Then, Yi Yilong's strength would become more and more powerful. However, what puzzled Yang Hanwu the most was that there should be a lot of battles between cities. Why were there so many cities in the sky-reaching continent? Yang Hanwu couldn't figure it out. After Yang Hanwu threw these thoughts aside, it didn't take long for a group of people to arrive at the top of the city wall. Outside the city wall, there was a large group of people. They were a dense mass of people and their imposing manner was astonishing. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man wearing a fiery red robe. Yi Yilong appeared and said, Yi Yilong, you finally dare to come out. Fire Immortal Blade, you came to my Dark Night City today. Do you want to start a war with my Dark Night City? Yi Yilong narrowed his eyes and found that there were several strange and powerful auras among the people of Flame City. These people were probably the geniuses of Flame City from the Flame Continent. Looking carefully, there were 8 people, 8 geniuses, which made Yi Yilong very jealous. It should be known that in a continent, only 10 people could enter the third test of the Divine Palace, and most of them were only 4 or 5. 6 people were already very good. 8 people were extremely rare. The more geniuses that entered the sky-reaching continent, the stronger the sky-reaching continent was. Only Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen came from the Dark Night continent, but there were 8 people from the Flame continent. The difference was too big. These geniuses who had just entered the sky-reaching continent might not have matured yet, but their luck was terrifying. Once they joined a city, they would bring great luck to the city and make it more prosperous. Because of Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen's arrival, the origin of Dark Night City was strengthened. He faintly felt that if there were 2 more geniuses, he might be able to break through the bottleneck that he had been stuck in for many years. Now that Flame City had 8 more geniuses, Fire Immortal Blade would be able to break through immediately. Perhaps he had already broken through. That was why he dared to launch such a huge attack on Dark Night City. Looking at the black mass of people, it seemed like they were going to destroy Dark Night City completely. Thinking of this, Dark Night Yilong's face darkened. At this moment, Dark Night City was in big trouble. Chapter 1834. If you don't want to die, you can pledge allegiance to my Flame City. Fire Immortal Blade looked at Yang Hanwu and said. In the sky-reaching continent, it was normal for some powerful cities to snatch geniuses from other cities. Many geniuses had left their original cities for more powerful and prosperous cities because of this. Hearing this, Anya Yilong's expression changed slightly. Looking at Yang Hanwu and Fire Immortal Blade, he was worried that Yang Hanwu and Fire Immortal Blade would leave. After all, Flame City was much stronger than Dark Night City. Pledge allegiance to your Dark Night City? Yang Hanwu couldn't help but laugh. What a joke. You want me to pledge allegiance to a mere flame city? If you want me to be the city lord, I can consider it. Kid, you're courting death. Do you know that? Hearing Yang Hongwu's words, Fire Immortal Blade was enraged. You don't know how to appreciate kindness. Today, your Dark Knight City won't survive. Kid, you'll die without a doubt. I'll let you know what true fear is. Is that so? Yang Hongwu leaped out of the city and landed not far away from them. Looking at Fire Immortal Blade and the others, he said, Your Flame City's geniuses are pretty strong. However, you're still not enough in front of me. Arrogant. Hearing this, the Flame City's geniuses were enraged. A yellow-robed youth stared at Yang Hongwu. This youth wasn't the strongest among the 8 geniuses. However, his aura was very noble. This person seemed to be the leader of the 8 geniuses. Arrogant? Yang Hongwu smiled faintly and said, All of you can come at me together. All 8 of you. Too arrogant. Hearing Yang Hongwu's words, the Flame City's people were even more enraged. Each of them stared at Yang Hongwu with fire in their eyes. The yellow-robed youth was called Fire Spirit God. He was the most outstanding genius of the Flame Continent. Although his cultivation realm wasn't the highest, his fighting strength was the most terrifying. Among the 8 geniuses, his fighting strength was the strongest. His status was also high. He was the number 1 expert of the Flame Continent, was he? The son of the Venerable One. 8 people. No, I alone am enough to deal with you. I will tear you into pieces. The Fire Spiritual God looked at Yang Hongwu and said coldly. When Anya Ilong heard that Yang Hongwu had challenged the 8 geniuses of the Flame City, his expression changed and his heart was filled with worry. However, when he heard the Fire Spiritual God mention that there was only one person, he heaved a sigh of relief. He could tell that Yang Hongwu was very powerful and incomparably confident. Back then, he had a premonition that if he were to face Yang Hongwu, he might be defeated. Therefore, if Yang Hongwu were to face the Fire Spiritual God alone, even if he could not win, he would be able to protect himself. Therefore, he wasn't too worried. Of course, if Yang Hongwu were to face the 8 geniuses, he definitely wouldn't have a chance. Even if he were to use the power of Anya City to face the 8 geniuses, he might not be able to escape unscathed. Not enough, not enough. You alone are too weak. Really, I'm not lying to you. If it's just you alone, I can take care of you in a few breaths. Too weak, I'm not interested at all. Yang Hongwu was still mocking. You have a sharp tongue. I hope that the strength you show later is half as strong as your mouth. The Fire Spiritual God slowly walked out. Step by step, he left behind deep footprints on the ground. How stupid. Yang Hongwu looked at the Fire Spiritual God's actions and couldn't help but mock. An expert will definitely not do such superficial things to show off his strength. Isn't that just a waste of his own spiritual power? The Fire Spiritual God's face sank and he moved. His speed increased and his whole body seemed to have turned into a flaming man. His body was surrounded by raging flames. This flame was a type of divine flame that was extremely terrifying. Of course, compared to Yang Hongwu's karmic fire of the Red Lotus, it was a lot weaker. Of course, it was comparable to the sky-burning divine flame. Yang Hongwu could tell that the people of the Flame Continent were most powerful in the flame technique. That was why he was so confident. Among the 8 geniuses, 6 of them were geniuses that comprehended the flame technique. As for the other 2, one of them comprehended the Pill Dao and the other cultivated the Sword Dao. Therefore, even if the 8 of them were to attack together, Yang Hongwu wasn't worried at all. The flame technique was like showing off in front of an expert. One should know that he possessed the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, which was one of the strongest flames in the myriad world. Moreover, if the flame technique that these guys cultivated could be devoured by the Flame Lotus, then it would be a great help to the Flame Lotus. It would be a great help to the Flame Lotus, which could allow it to grow faster. As for the 2 geniuses, the Pill Dao wouldn't bother him at all. In terms of Pil Dao, Yang Hanwu was equally confident. Among the younger generation, there was absolutely no one who could be more outstanding than him in terms of Pil Dao. Even among those old antiques, there were very few people who could be more powerful than him in terms of Pil Dao. As for that sword cultivator, he would bring some trouble to Yang Hanwu. However, it would only be some trouble. These thoughts flashed through Yang Hanwu's mind. At this moment, the fire spiritual god had already appeared in front of Yang Hanwu. Balls of flames turned into fire dragons and charged towards Yang Hanwu. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, wanting to devour Yang Hanwu. However, Yang Hanwu seemed to be stunned as he remained motionless. Seeing this, Anya Ilong's face changed as he shouted, "Be careful." The fire spiritual god sneered as he thought to himself. This kid is so scared that he doesn't even dare to resist. In the next moment, the flames engulfed Yang Hanwu. Damn it. Anya Ilong frowned. He wanted to take action, but he was worried that the people of the Flame City would plot against him. Don't worry, he's confident. At this moment, Anya Shenv was unexpectedly calm. If it was in the past, Anya Shenv would definitely help Yang Hanwu. However, at this moment, Anya Shenv had an inexplicable trust in Yang Hanwu. She knew that Wu wouldn't be careless if he wasn't confident. She also didn't believe that the fire spiritual god could plot against Yang Hanwu. Haha, Anya Ilong, surrender and join my Flame City. Perhaps, I can give you the position of Deputy City Lord. Seeing that Yang Hanwu was trapped before he could even resist, the fire immortal blade couldn't help but laugh as he looked at Anya Ilong. Don't be happy too early. Do you really think that the geniuses of our Anya City are so easy to defeat? Anya Ilong said coldly. Chapter 1835. This scene caused everyone's eyes to widen. They simply did not dare to believe it. Monster, this was simply a monster. This guy had even devoured the divine flame of desolation. He had directly swallowed it into his stomach. What kind of monster was this? If it was anyone else who dared to do this, they would most likely be killed. If anyone dared to do so, they would be burned to ashes by the burning desolation divine fire. Not good. The fire spiritual god is in danger. At this moment, fiery immortal Saber's expression changed. Since Yang Hanwu was not afraid of the burning desolation divine fire and could even swallow it, it meant that the fire spiritual god could not harm Yang Hanwu. Therefore, the fire spiritual god was in danger. That was close. No way. An old man beside fiery immortal Saber said, the fire spiritual god's cultivation realm is much higher than that kid's. Even if the divine fire is ineffective against that kid, the fire spiritual god should be able to deal with it. After all, the difference in cultivation realm cannot be made up. Fiery immortal Saber shook his head and said, for true geniuses, the difference in cultivation level is nothing. True geniuses, peerless evildoers, can fight across realms. That young man dared to be so presumptuous, he must have enough trump cards. We can't take his strength lightly. Fiery immortal Saber then said to another genius beside him, Fiery Spirit Ape, you go. The Fiery Spirit Ape was also one of the 8 geniuses. His cultivation realm was higher than the fire spiritual god and he also had the divine fire. Seeing that Yang Hanwu was not afraid of the burning desolation divine fire, the Fiery Spirit Ape was a little worried. However, since Fiery Immortal Saber had asked, he naturally would not refuse. He could not deal with Yang Hanwu alone, but if he joined forces with the fire spiritual god, he was confident that he could deal with Yang Hanwu. Despicable. The Dark Night Goddess looked at the Fire Immortal Saber and called the Conflagration Ape to attack as well. The Conflagration Ape instantly appeared on the other side of Yang Hanwu. Its speed was extremely fast, and its figure was extremely agile. It was like an agile ape. Its entire body exuded a fiery aura, just like a violent fire ape. At this moment, Anya Shenv was very anxious. Don't worry, little brother Yang will be fine. Even though Anya Ilong was worried, he was no longer worried after seeing Yang Hanwu devouring the desolation divine flame. If anything happens, we won't stand idly by. Don't worry. That's all. At this time, the Dark Night Goddess also calmed down. She also realized that she was too worried about Yang Hongwu. She knew that with Yang Hongwu's strength, it wouldn't be a big problem to deal with these two people. After all, he hadn't displayed his array formation yet. Moreover, Yang Hongwu still had several life-saving treasures. If he took out any of them, he wouldn't be afraid of the two of them. Unless the 8 geniuses of Flame City attacked together, they might be able to suppress Yang Hongwu. If it was just 1 or 2, they definitely wouldn't be a match for Yang Hongwu. Little brat, go to hell. The conflagration ape roared. It was as if a giant ape was roaring. The flames on its body burned fiercely as it rushed towards Yang Hongwu. Its huge body and terrifying claws seemed like it wanted to tear Yang Hongwu apart. Good timing. Yang Hongwu laughed and jumped up. Then, he threw out a punch. This punch collided with the conflagration ape's fist. One big and one small. The contrast between the two fists was huge. However, to everyone's surprise, the conflagration ape was sent flying. Everyone was shocked. This was a collision of strength. This was a pure collision of strength. Especially Fire Immortal Saber's face was extremely gloomy. Yang Hongwu's punch didn't release any magical power. It was purely the strength of his body. The conflagration ape had the conflagration ape divine physique. Moreover, it had cultivated a special technique to the extreme. Its body was extremely strong. In the entire Flame City, no one had a stronger body than the conflagration ape. The conflagration ape's physical strength was comparable to an Emperor Realm warrior. It was an all-out attack. One had to know that it was purely the power of the physical body. However, the power of this attack that Yang Hongwu unleashed was even more terrifying and appalling. The conflagration ape was sent flying. Die! After Yang Hongwu sent the conflagration ape flying, the fire spiritual god also regained his senses. The pressure on him had lessened a lot. Previously, Yang Hongwu had swallowed a part of his burning desolation divine flame, which made him extremely furious. That was his life divine flame, and Yang Hongwu had swallowed a part of it. To him, it was a huge loss. After knowing that his divine flame of desolation was useless against Yang Hongwu, the fire spiritual god wouldn't be stupid enough to use the strength of his flame to deal with Yang Hongwu. Therefore, the fire spiritual god immediately took out his weapon. It was a long spear, the flaming divine spear. This divine spear was a supreme treasure that was nurtured from the ancient divine flame origin. This long spear had accompanied him in defeating countless geniuses. The fire spiritual god's greatest reliance was the divine flame of desolation and the flaming divine spear. Good. Yang Hongwu laughed. He turned around and threw out another punch. This punch landed on the fire spiritual god's long spear. The powerful strength actually sent the fire spiritual god flying. The strength of this attack was still the strength of his body. He didn't use any magical power. This kid is cultivating the divine body technique. The fire immortal saber looked at Yang Hongwu with a dignified expression. This kind of divine body technique was very terrifying. It reminded him of a person. On the Tongtian continent, there had been many peerless geniuses, but there was only one person who had used the divine body technique to sweep the world. That was the Vajra Buddha King. The Vajra Buddha King was an expert who had swept the entire Tongtian continent with the strength of his body 3,000 years ago. The Vajra Buddha King's body was almost unbreakable. It was equivalent to a supreme treasure. This showed how powerful and terrifying the Vajra Buddha King's body was. Could it be that Yang Hongwu had obtained the Vajra Buddha King's physical body cultivation method? The fire immortal saber was very gloomy. If he had really cultivated the Vajra Buddha King's divine body technique, it would be a good thing. After all, Yang Hongwu came from Anya City. He was definitely not from the same world as the Vajra Buddha King. Therefore, if Yang Hongwu had cultivated the Vajra Buddha King's divine body technique, it would be a great thing for them. They could kill Yang Hanwu and seize his divine body technique. Thinking of this, the fire immortal saber's eyes flashed with a raging flame. Chapter 1836. Ha, great timing. I told you guys to come at me together. Otherwise, you guys won't be able to fight against me. Yang Hanwu laughed loudly. Seeing the 8 of them attacking him together, Yang Hanwu did not care at all. He was not afraid at all. A cold light shot out from his eyes and a huge seal appeared in his hand. It was the life seal. What a supreme treasure. Seeing Yang Hanwu taking out the life seal, fiery immortal Blade's eyes were filled with greed. So was Fire's spiritual god. Life force, suppress. Yang Hanwu shouted and Yang Hanwu appeared behind one of the geniuses. The life seal slammed down and suppressed the other party. Come out. Yang Hanwu reached out with his hand and grabbed the flame essence of the genius. Instantly, the genius withered and lost his vitality. Seeing this scene, everyone turned pale with fright, especially the Fire's spiritual god and the others, who were terrified to the extreme. Devouring furnace, devour. Then, Yang Hanwu used the devouring furnace to devour the flame origin and integrated it into the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. With this part of the flame origin, the karmic fire of the Red Lotus became stronger. Yang Hanwu squinted his eyes. Indeed, he needed the flame origin to make the karmic fire of the Red Lotus stronger. This little bastard. Fiery immortal Blade's face turned gloomy when he saw Yang Hanwu killing one of the geniuses and snatching the flame origin. Great. Ah, this is great. I knew that Yang Hanwu would not let us down. Anya alone laughed. The stronger Yang Hanwu was, the more beneficial it would be for Anya City. The stronger Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen were, the stronger Anya City would be. As the city lord of Anya City, he would get more benefits. If Yang Hanwu could kill the remaining 7 geniuses of Flame City, that would be great. Don't give him a chance to breathe. Otherwise, we'll all die here. At this moment, Fire's spiritual god said to the other 6 with a solemn face. Yang Hanwu's strength was too terrifying. Especially since he was immune to fire. Although the divine fire was strong, it could not do any harm to him. That was the scariest part. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that this kid was the nemesis of Flame City. That's right. We have to kill him. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. Another's voice. Let's do it together, don't give him any chance to breathe. That's right. If we fight them one by one, we won't be their match. Yes. Fire's spiritual god, to kill to the end. Young master, we can use the 7 stars annihilation formation. Now that there are only 7 of us left, we can use the 7 stars annihilation formation to deal with him. Fire's spiritual god said. Good. His body is strong. I don't believe that his body can withstand the 7 stars annihilation formation. Hui Yuanfang said. Formation. 7 stars annihilation formation. Yang Hanwu squinted his eyes when he saw the 7's actions. Formation. TSK. Showing off in front of an expert. Yang Hanwu didn't care at all. However, Anya Ilong's complexion changed. As the sworn enemy of Flame City, how could he not see through this formation? This was the trump card of Flame City. This array formation had boundless power, far from being as simple as 1 + 1. When the 7 of them set up this array formation, the power it could unleash was far greater than the combined power of the 7 of them. Yang Hanwu, be careful. This is the 7 stars annihilation formation. Anya Ilong warned loudly. At this moment, Anya Ilong moved. The 7 stars annihilation formation was too powerful. Yang Hanwu couldn't withstand it alone. He had to take action. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to save Yang Hanwu if the formation completely enveloped him. Fortunately, this was Anya City. Although he was outside the city, he could still borrow the strength of Anya City. You want to save him? Impossible. Anya Ilong, your opponent is me. Fire Immortal Saber saw Anya Ilong move and knew what he was thinking. With a thought, his body flashed and appeared on the battlefield, blocking Anya Ilong's path. Damn it! Fire Immortal Saber, get out of my way. Otherwise, we won't rest until one of us is dead. Anya Ilong was very anxious when he saw Yang Hanwu being trapped in the formation. However, he couldn't rescue him because the person blocking him was the Lord of Flame City, Fire Immortal Saber. He was far away from Flame City. Although he couldn't borrow the strength of Flame City like Anya Ilong, his strength was still extraordinary. Flame City was now more prosperous than Anya City. Therefore, Fire Immortal Saber, as the Lord of Flame City, was stronger than Anya Ilong. Although he was farther away and could borrow less strength, Fire Immortal Saber was on par with Anya Ilong. Ha! So what if we won't rest until one of us is dead? Anya Ilong, your Dark Night City is destined to be devoured by my Flame City. If you surrender now, you can still be the Deputy City Lord. But if you're stubborn, your Dark Night City will be completely destroyed. Fire Immortal Saber laughed. Dark Night City. Once the city is destroyed, you'll die too. Do you know that? Fiery Immortal Saber was confident of victory. Initially, his Blazing City was already very prosperous. In fact, Blazing City had been enduring silently all this while. On the surface, Blazing City and Dark Night City only had a slight advantage. However, that wasn't the case. Blazing City's strength had long surpassed Dark Night City. He was many times stronger than Anya City, and his strength was already at the half-step sovereign level. With the support of Flame City, he was infinitely close to the sovereign level. In Sky-reaching continent, he was confident that there weren't many people who could fight against him. His strength was enough to enter the top 10 of Sky-reaching continent. That was why he was so confident. Chapter 1837. Damn it, Anya Ilong cursed as he prayed in his heart that Yang Hanwu had to hold on. Fire Celestial Saber, who thought that victory was in his hands, did not know that Yang Hanwu was extremely powerful in terms of array formations. Anya Shenv knew this very well. Hence, when she saw the other party using their array formation to deal with Yang Hanwu, she was not worried at all. She knew that Yang Hongwu's array formation was extremely powerful and terrifying. Little bastard, it's your honor to die under the array formation of the seven of us, Fire Spiritual God said as he looked at Yang Hanwu. Such arrogance. Yang Hanwu laughed as he did not put the seven of them in his eyes. It's just an array formation. Do you really think that you're invincible? Such an array formation is not even worth mentioning in front of me. As he spoke, Yang Hanwu took action. A few elixirs appeared in his hand. These elixirs were the formation-breaking elixirs. At this moment, the formation-breaking elixirs in Yang Hongwu's hand turned into rays of light and shot out like meteors. They instantly hit the 7 stars extermination array of the 7 of them. Every ray of light hit the weak points of the array formation. Crack, crack. A crisp sound could be heard. The array formation that the 7 of them had set up was instantly broken. The moment the array formation was broken, the 7 of them suffered a backlash and were severely injured. Their auras were weak and there were traces of blood at the corner of their mouths. Fire Spiritual God stared at Yang Hanwu. You! How could you break the array formation so easily? Fire Spiritual God could not believe that the array formation was broken in an instant. It seemed too easy. The array formation that the 7 of them had set up together was extremely powerful. They even dared to fight against an expert of the Sovereign Realm. They were confident that even if they were to meet an expert of the Sovereign Realm, even if there was no way he would be able to defeat him, it was absolutely impossible for Fajing to be broken so easily. But reality was so cruel. The spirit formation that they were so proud of and incomparably confident and couldn't even withstand a single blow from Yang Hanwu. It was like a piece of paper that was destroyed in an instant. This was a huge blow to them. Haha, old thing, I knew that Yang Hanwu would be fine. And Yi Yilong, who was fighting with the Fire Immortal Blade, saw that Yang Hanwu not only did not die in the formation, but also easily broke the formation and injured the fire spirit god and the others. This made him overjoyed. He looked at the fire immortal blade. His face was full of provocation. Damn it, how did this happen? Trash, you're really trash. Seeing this, fiery immortal blade roared in anger. 7 of them had been defeated, and 1 of them had been killed. He could feel that the fortune of Flame City had been weakened. On the contrary, the fortune of Dark Knight City had been strengthened. Dark Knight Dragon had also improved accordingly. Little brother Yang, kill them. Kill all of those bastards from Flame City. Dark Knight Ilong shouted. As long as Yang Hanwu killed those 7 geniuses, the fortune of Flame City would be weakened. At the same time, the fortune of Dark Knight City would increase tremendously, and his own strength would increase as well. Under this situation, Dark Knight City might even surpass Flame City. How dare you! Hearing this, fiery immortal saber roared, little bastard, if you dare to kill the 7 of them, I'll make sure you die without a burial place. There won't be a place for you in the entire sky-reaching continent. Do you know that? The Inferno Immortal Blade couldn't help but be anxious. Once all the new geniuses of the Inferno continent were killed, the fortune of the Inferno City would plummet. At that time, not to mention taking down the Dark Knight City, even self-preservation would be a problem. Don't be afraid of him. As long as you kill those 7 geniuses, the fortune of Dark Knight City will increase, and the strength of Dark Knight City will increase as well. At that time, you'll reap great benefits, and Yilong shouted. And Yilong yelled, your luck is amazing. The more geniuses you kill, the more benefits you'll gain. The more you kill, the stronger you'll become. You're dreaming if you want to kill us. The fire spiritual god roared. Although their formation had been broken, they had also suffered from the backlash of the formation's power. Every one of them was seriously injured. However, the 7 of them had the advantage in numbers. Their cultivation realm was also higher than the fire spiritual gods. Their cultivation was also higher than Yang Hongwu's. Therefore, they were confident that they could defeat Yang Hongwu and protect themselves. As for killing Yang Hongwu, it was too difficult. Is that so? Yang Hongwu's lips curled into a smile. You guys know how to set up a formation, do you think I don't? Today, I'll show you what a real formation is. After saying that, Yang Hanwu waved his hand, and a ray of light burst out. It was a 7 stars array disc. Let me show you what a real 7 stars extermination array is. After saying that, a ray of light burst out, and specks of starlight appeared. A formation instantly soared into the sky, triggering the 7 ancient stars in the endless void. The power of the 7 ancient stars was triggered, and instantly formed a supreme formation. It sealed off the battle space. Fire Spirit God and the others' faces changed drastically. This? What kind of formation is this? It's so terrifying. That's the power of the ancient stars. Not bad. Seems like you guys have some knowledge. This is the real 7 stars extermination array. It's set up by triggering the power of the 7 ancient stars. Unless you're an expert of the sovereign realm, you won't be able to break the formation and leave this place. Yang Hanwu said, today, you guys will die in this formation. Now, you can rest in peace. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can you set up the 7 stars extermination array by yourself? How can you trigger the 7 ancient stars in the endless void? This is absolutely impossible. Illusion. This is an illusion. It's just an illusion. How can an illusion confuse us? Fire Spirit God shouted. Said. That's right. This must be fake. This is an illusion formation. Let's work together to break this illusion formation. At this moment, the conflagration ape also roared. His body underwent a drastic change again, and he turned into a real giant ape. His roar could even shake the earth and mountains. The fire spirit god also roared and turned into a giant. A mark flashed between his eyebrows. It was the mark of the burning desolation divine flame. This was an ancient flame giant. The strength of the fire spirit god who had turned into an ancient flame giant had become extremely terrifying. This strength was almost comparable to the peak of the emperor, or a half-step sovereign. Chapter 1838. Damn it! How could this be? Everyone was suppressed. This formation was much more powerful than the formation that the 7 of them had arranged before. The 7 of them were no match for it. Under this terrifying formation, they simply had no strength to fight back. It could be seen that this formation was very powerful. This was how terrifying it was. Trash. All of you are trash. Seeing the 7 of them being suppressed once again, the Inferno Immortal Blade was infuriated. With the 7 of them suppressed, the fortune of the Inferno Immortal Blade fell once again. He could feel it clearly. If he was in the Inferno Immortal Blade, he would be able to borrow even more power. However, this was the territory of the Dark Knight City. Therefore, the strength that he could mobilize was very limited. If he couldn't mobilize enough power from Flame City, he wouldn't be able to repel an Yilong in a short amount of time. As a result, he wouldn't be able to help the 7 of them suppress Yang Hongwu. This made him very angry, but also very helpless. Because of that, he wanted to leave this place, and had the intention to retreat. However, it wasn't an easy task. Would Yang Hongwu give him the chance to retreat? Anya Ilong wasn't stupid, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Anya Ilong could also see that Fire Immortal Blade was thinking of retreating. However, Yilong wasn't stupid. This was a great opportunity. The Blazing City was powerful and had a deep foundation. Although he didn't know how much power the Blazing City had hidden, he could feel that the Blazing Immortal Blade hadn't fully unleashed his full strength during the battle. He should be hiding a lot of his strength. This was the territory of the Dark Knight City. He could exert his strength to the maximum, but the fiery Immortal Saber was suppressed. Even if he couldn't kill the fiery Immortal Saber, he could still injure the fiery Immortal Saber. Once the fiery Immortal Saber was injured, it would be advantageous for the Dark Knight City. If he missed such a good opportunity, he would really be a fool. Yang Hongwu, quickly kill those guys. Fiery Immortal Saber and the others want to retreat. And Yilong shouted at Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu nodded. He knew what Yilong was thinking. Anya Shenv, come here. Yang Hongwu transmitted his voice to Anya Shenv, asking him to kill one of them. After all, if he killed all of them, then Anya Shenv wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Defeating the geniuses of the 10 cities was just the beginning. If the 2 of them worked together, they would only need to defeat the geniuses of the 10 cities to obtain 2 divine tokens. If he worked alone, he would need to defeat 100 cities. That speed was too slow. Yang Hongwu didn't want to waste too much time. Of course, Yang Hongwu could also choose to send Anya Shenv into his common people's great world. However, if he did that, he would expose his trump cards and secrets to Anya Shenv. His relationship with Anya Shenv hadn't reached that level to send him into the common people's great world. The people inside were all people that Yang Hongwu could trust completely. Obviously, Anya Shenv was still a bit lacking. After all, he didn't have a complete understanding of Anya Shenv. When one reached Yang Hongwu's level, he had to be careful. No matter what, he couldn't let his guard down. He had to make sure that nothing would go wrong. Because sometimes, a little flaw could lead to complete destruction. As the saying goes, 1,000 miles of dike can be destroyed by an ant hole. When Anya Shenv heard Yang Hongwu's words, he naturally knew what Yang Hongwu was thinking. He instantly jumped up and flew towards Yang Hongwu. After a few breaths, Anya Shenv also entered the formation. At this time, Yang Hongwu had used the power of the formation to completely suppress the 7 people of the Fire Spirit God. The 7 of them had no power to resist. In this way, Anya Shenv's strength was very strong. With the help of Yang Hongwu, he easily killed one of them. The others were completely killed by Yang Hongwu. Then, he absorbed the strength of their original flames. That way, Yang Hanwu realized that his karmic fire of the Red Lotus had become much stronger. Even though his cultivation hadn't broken through, it had already reached its limit. Yang Hanwu had a premonition. If he could kill Fiery's celestial blade, his karmic fire of the Red Lotus would become much stronger. His karmic fire of the Red Lotus would also become stronger. His cultivation would also break through the bottleneck of the middle godly emperor layer and reach the 7th godly emperor layer, which was the late godly emperor layer. For Yang Hanwu, it was very difficult for him to break through to the next level. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the next level. Bastard. Damn bastard. 7 people had been killed, and their flame essence had been devoured. Naturally, the Inferno Immortal Saber could sense it. To Flame City, this was a huge loss. Although these were only the geniuses from the Flame Continent who had entered the Heavenspan Continent, 8 of them had been killed. Flame City's loss wasn't small. At that moment, Fiery's celestial blade knew that he couldn't make a comeback. Therefore, he decided to escape. Those 7 pieces of trash are dead. We have to leave, shouted Fiery's celestial blade to the others. All the people of Flame City nodded and released their strength to attacking Yilong and the others. The people of Dark Night City, including the elders, weren't stupid. They knew that this was an opportunity. This time, Blazing City had suffered a great loss. If they could capture Fiery Immortal Blade and the others, they would have a chance to completely annihilate Blazing City. At that time, Blazing City would be devoured by Dark Night City. If Flame City was devoured by Flame City, Dark Night City's strength would increase tremendously. At this moment, the two sides clashed against each other. A terrifying strength exploded. The whole world shook. The impact of these two forces could be said to be earth-shattering. Some of the weaker warriors couldn't even withstand a single blow in front of such powerful forces. They were sent flying in an instant. The gap between them could be imagined. Let's go! Fiery Immortal Saber saw that Anya Ilong had mobilized more than 90% of the origin energy of Dark Night City. His expression changed. He knew that Anya Ilong was going to go all out. He wanted to use this opportunity to keep him here. How dare he? Chapter 1839. Teleportation Talisman? Yang Hongwu's expression changed. He never thought that this guy would have such a precious teleportation talisman. Yang Hanwu could also refine such a teleportation talisman. It was very powerful as it could directly break through some special space to teleport. I was too careless. I never thought that this guy would have a teleportation talisman. Yang Hanwu sighed. If he knew that this would happen, he would have set up another isolation array. Unfortunately, it was too late now. After all, these people had already been teleported away. However, even though the teleportation talisman was powerful, it could only teleport a few people away. The remaining dozens of people could no longer escape. They were surrounded by the people from Anya City. There was no way for them to escape. You have been abandoned. Surrender now. Looking at the Immortal Fire Blade and the others being teleported away, these people were mostly experts of Flame City. The remaining people were just ordinary warriors. Of course, they weren't weak. They were at least elites of Flame City. It was a pity that the Immortal Fire Blade had escaped. If they had been able to capture the Immortal Fire Blade, then Flame City would have suffered a great loss. However, even if these elites were captured, it wouldn't be a huge blow to Flame City. It wouldn't be a great loss to Flame City. However, it was a good thing for Dark Night City. If they could subdue these people, then the strength of Dark Night City would increase by a lot. Of course, this wasn't without danger. After all, there was a possibility that these people wouldn't completely surrender and would become spies. If that was the case, it wouldn't be good for Dark Night City. However, Anya Ilong naturally didn't think of this point. After all, there were two sides to this. There were advantages and disadvantages. It was a double-edged sword. Even if they were spies, they could also become a sharp sword. Therefore, Anya alone wasn't worried. For him, if he could subdue these people, then it would be a great advantage for him. Yang Hanwu originally wanted to kill these people. However, seeing that Anya alone wanted to subdue them, he decided to give him some face. After all, these people's strength couldn't be compared to the 8 geniuses from before. Their strength and talent couldn't be compared to the 8 geniuses from before. There were 8 of them. However, Yang Hanwu also felt that it was a pity that he couldn't keep the fire immortal blade. Yang Hanwu could sense a powerful flame origin power on the fire immortal blade. If he could refine the power of flame origin, he would definitely be able to advance his cultivation by a small realm. As the Red Lotus of Hellfire, the Red Lotus of Hellfire would also be able to advance by a grade. Unfortunately, he managed to escape. He could only blame himself for being too careless and losing such a great opportunity. Yang Hanwu had also thought of heading straight to Flame City. However, Yang Hanwu knew that it wouldn't be easy to take over such a city. After all, this was the sky-reaching continent, where experts were as common as clouds. If a city could be taken down so easily, there wouldn't be so many cities in the sky-reaching continent. You want us to surrender? And ye alone, you must be dreaming. If you want to fight, then fight. At most, we will die. You want us to surrender? That is absolutely impossible. Among the group of people, a man in green clothes with a scar on his face stared fiercely at Yi Long. That's right. The people of Flame City will never surrender. We would rather die standing than live kneeling. Come on. Even if we die, we won't let you have an easy time. The eyes of the people of Flame City were burning with fighting spirit. The whole group was filled with the spirit of facing death with equanimity. Facing death required great courage. There weren't many people who weren't even afraid of death. Even some of the top experts wouldn't be so calm in the face of death. If it was the Fire Immortal Saber, he would probably give in and save himself in the face of certain death. Surrendering for the sake of one's life, submitting to others and dragging out an ignoble existence. However, these people did not do that. This scene not only shocked Yi Long, even Yang Hanwu was surprised. Not bad, not bad. You guys would rather die than surrender. What great courage. At this moment, Yang Hanwu clapped his hands and said, If that's the case, then I shall grant you your wish. After saying that, Yang Hanwu suddenly threw out a punch. This punch instantly landed on the nearest warrior. The warrior's chest was instantly pierced through and a huge hole appeared. His soul was also annihilated at this moment. I am dead. As his voice faded, his body fell to the ground. He was killed in a single strike. The power of this punch was terrifying. Yang Hongwu's speed was too fast, so fast that no one was able to react. It had to be known that at the beginning, Yang Hanwu was more than 100 feet away from this person, but Yang Hanwu had actually appeared in front of him in a breath's time, piercing through his chest. Such speed, such strength, how terrifying was it? Too strong. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The people of Flame City who would rather die than surrender were frightened to the extreme when they saw this scene. They kept retreating. In the beginning, they weren't afraid of death. However, when they saw one of them being killed, even his soul was annihilated. He didn't even have the chance to be reincarnated. How could they not be afraid? There was a great terror between life and death. Some people who weren't afraid of death would only be afraid of death for a short period of time. Once that period of time passed, they would definitely become afraid. This was a great terror. Not everyone could endure until the end. Obviously, none of the people present could endure until the end. Therefore, after seeing one of their companions die, their willpower had already collapsed. All of you, come at me together. As long as you can defeat me, I will give you a chance to live. When Yang Hanwu said this, everyone's eyes lit up. After all, Yang Hongwu's strength was terrifying. In addition, the people of Dark Knight City were present. If they wanted to live, there was almost no chance of survival. However, Yang Hongwu's words gave them a glimmer of hope. He was alone. Moreover, he wasn't the city lord of Dark Night City. No matter how strong he was, there would be a time when he would be exhausted. There were dozens of people present. If they all attacked together, they could exhaust him to death. Is what you said true? Chapter 1840. This is my business. It's not for you to discuss it with me. Yang Hongwu looked at Anya Ilong coldly. What's with your attitude? Seeing Yang Hongwu's impoliteness, an elder beside Anya Ilong was infuriated. He looked at Yang Hongwu and said coldly. The others were also infuriated. How dare you talk to the city lord like that? Don't you know the difference between seniors and juniors? Another elder said. Anya Ilong was also somewhat dissatisfied. After all, he was the city lord of Anya City. He had a high status, and his words were absolute. However, Yang Hongwu didn't put him in his eyes at all. Even though Anya Ilong had a good attitude, he couldn't help but feel unhappy. However, he still endured it. After all, if Yang Hongwu was forced to leave, it would be a huge blow to Anya City. One should know that Yang Hongwu's strength was very shocking. However, he was able to defeat Fiery Immortal Blade and the others by himself. It could be said that Yang Hongwu was the most outstanding person in Anya Ilong. He was one of the most outstanding geniuses he had ever seen. In fact, he was even comparable to the geniuses of the top worlds. If Yang Hongwu left Anya City, or even joined another city, it would be a huge loss for Anya City. Anya Ilong couldn't bear such a loss. To him in Anya City, Yang Hongwu's existence was definitely more important than an elder. Therefore, Anya Ilong wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Anya Ilong wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Because it would destroy his hope of breaking through the bottleneck. Whoever did that would be his greatest enemy. He had a premonition that Yang Hongwu would become the second invincible expert in sky-reaching continent. Old song, shut up. Anya Ilong snorted coldly, then said to Yang Hongwu, you don't have to care about them. Since you've made up your mind, it's up to you. I believe in you. Anya Ilong's words to Yang Hongwu surprised the elders of Anya City. They were also somewhat dissatisfied. A new genius, Dark Knight Ilong, actually lost his temper at them because of a newcomer. As the elders of Dark Knight City, they were naturally dissatisfied. However, he didn't dare to refute or say anything. At this time, if they refuted, it would be rude to the city lord. Although they were elders, the difference in strength and status between them and the city lord was huge. Unless they were willing to give up their status as elders of Dark Knight City, they had to obey the will of the city lord. This was also the strength of a city lord. In the Tongtian continent, once you joined a city and obtained a position in the city, you would gain power, but at the same time, you would also be restricted. This kind of restriction had a strict level restriction. Unless one was strong enough, they could ignore this kind of level system. However, such people were few and far between. Only those truly terrifying geniuses and monstrous geniuses could achieve such a feat in the sky-reaching continent. There were very few people who could achieve such a feat, and those few people possessed truly terrifying strength. Every one of them was a peerless expert. Once they took action, it wouldn't be too difficult for them to destroy a city. They could do it. Yang Hongwu said indifferently, I hope you will do as you say. Don't interfere with me. Otherwise, I will let you know what true terror is. You! One of the elders was furious. Stand down. Anya Ilong said. City lord, but stand down. Anya Ilong looked at him coldly, then said to Yang Hongwu, don't worry. Anya Ilong, will never go back on my words. At this time, Yang Hongwu walked towards the people of Flame City. Come at me together. Let me see your strength. Yang Hongwu's tone was still indifferent, as if these people were ants, not worth mentioning. You will pay the price for your choice. The leader said coldly, attack together. Kill him. Everyone moved the moment his voice fell. Their speed was so fast that no one could see them clearly. Each and every one of them unleashed their greatest strength, attacking Yang Hanwu crazily. Too weak. Too weak. Yang Hanwu swung his fists as he walked. Each punch sent the people surrounding them flying. Although these people from Flame City were strong and fast, in front of Yang Hanwu, they were as weak as babies. Their speed was nothing compared to Yang Hanwu's. In Yang Hanwu's eyes, they were as slow as snails. The people of Flame City were incomparably shocked. Yang Hanwu was too strong, too terrifying. In this battle, many people's attacks landed on Yang Hanwu's body. However, these people's attacks didn't cause much damage to Yang Hanwu. At most, he only suffered some light injuries. Terrifying. Truly terrifying. What kind of physique does this guy have? It's so terrifying. The people of Dark Knight City watched Yang Hanwu's display of invincibility with their eyes wide open. They couldn't believe it at all. Was everything in front of them real? Yeah. This guy is too strong. He's not human at all. Someone said. Now you guys understand why I told you not to provoke him, right? Dark Knight alone looked at Yang Hanwu in shock. He had overestimated Yang Hanwu's cultivation base. Unexpectedly, he still underestimated him. This kind of battle was like child's play to him. It was too terrifying. Even if he mobilized the power of the city, he wouldn't be able to do this. In the face of such attacks, he only suffered some light injuries. Moreover, it seemed like he didn't care about those injuries at all. Everyone nodded. No wonder. I feel that Dark Knight City's luck is getting stronger. Yeah. We can't force him away or let anything happen to him. Otherwise, it'll be the biggest loss for Dark Knight City. Another elder said. In the future, you guys have to agree to whatever conditions he puts forward. Dark Knight alone said. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Yang Hanwu had defeated everyone. They were all lying on the ground, wailing in pain. Of course, there were also people who were completely annihilated. Yang Hanwu's strength made the people of Flame City lose their will to resist. You guys are really trash. Yang Hanwu snorted coldly as his lips curled into a smile. In fact, the reason why Yang Hanwu wanted to waste time fighting with them was so that he could stabilize his cultivation and control his own power. We'll submit to you. At this moment, someone said. Great. Dark Knight alone was overjoyed. These people submitting to him and joining Dark Knight City was a great thing for him. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.